Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Good morning. Welcome to Thursday. Welcome to the program. We are 3 more sleeps away from game day. Man, it's going to be a long time. As I said yesterday, the longest wait is for the fans of the Kitchener Rangers. I'm sure the Rangers have a lot planned in the days, with practice and workouts and things like that, and getting ready for game day. As I said yesterday, I bet you, because they have 4 full days and then almost an entire day before the game on Sunday evening, I'll bet you they just take a day where it's not hockey at all, and they would deserve it. So we're going to talk to Mike Farwell from Kelowna coming up at 11 o'clock this morning. We'll get the updates on, what the team is doing, what the team has been doing, what's Mike been doing, the status of Christian Humphreys, all kinds of things we can talk to Mike about, get an update on the Rangers. I was going to say get the hype going, but I don't think we need to get more hype going. I think we're hyped up and ready for the Kitchener Rangers in the Memorial Cup final against somebody on Sunday. So it's not about that. It's just to sort of keep the chat going and keep it all alive for just a wonderful week at this time of year for Kitchener Rangers, to be able to talk Rangers hockey, Memorial Cup, involving the Rangers and all that. It's just fantastic. And lucky for me to be able to fill in for Mike during this very exciting week. And specifically, I'm here because, of course, Mike is away with the team. He's far away in Kelowna, and a nice place to be. All credits, maybe not to their hockey team, but certainly to their city. Fabulous place. Everybody says so. So 3 more sleeps till game day. So we'll cover that on this morning's show. We're also going to talk summer. We've had some summer weather finally this week. Good. What a beautiful day it is today. Just a very nice, boy, if it could be like this every day, it's the perfect kind of summer day. Not too hot, not too cool, just nice. But the people at the Weather Network, you may have heard the story yesterday on 570 News, have released their summer forecast. And the Weather Network, and I think meteorologists in general, they have something called meteorological summer and meteorological fall and everything. So I think their summer is June, July, August. And then the fall is September, October, November. Winter is December, January, February. Spring is March, April, May. So I know we're, first official day of summer is the 21st, the summer solstice, all that kind of stuff. Fall is like in the 20th of September, somewhere in there. So and that's fine. I understand that, you're going to watch the world rotate and go around the earth and do all these kinds of things. But I like the idea of the meteorological seasons, because that's what we feel. We kind of feel that summer is June, July, August, not third week of June till third week of September. You know what I mean? Anyway, so they predict, at least for our part of the world, maybe not a sizzler of a summer, as they say. They say more of a simmer in the summer. So that's going to be one of our summer topics today on the program. Let me check. I want to say it's 10 o'clock. I want to check on that. I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. Pardon me. 10:30 this morning. Okay. For Michael Carter, the meteorologist from the Weather Network, to talk about the official Weather Network summer forecast. Speaking of summers, also yard sales. Really, I guess they're all year round, but in the spring and summer and fall, especially summer, is when we see more yard sales popping up, garage sales, what have you. And I've never been able in my life to pass a yard sale. When I had a car, I'd be driving around the neighborhood and suddenly why is my car going on this street? Why is it pulling over to the right? Oh, there's a yard. It's like my car knew where to find yard sales, even without me. It's like it had some self-driving yard sale detection unit. I'm serious, man. I would just come across yard sales, and I love them. Now, I've collected a lot of stuff at yard sales over the years. over the last couple of years, I've also done a couple of purges of stuff where finally it's like, okay, enough is enough, man. Get rid of this stuff. Most recently, all my CDs. That was painful, but I did it. Got rid of all of those. And just general tchotchkes and knickknacks and whatever. I've purged a lot of that stuff, and actually not all of it. Put some away in storage. And I've realized many times that all the stuff that I bought at yard sales will one day make a very nice yard sale. That's really all it's going to be. Is somebody's going to say, hey, there's some neat stuff here. Yeah, I've collected the neat stuff at yard sales over the years. And they've occupied places in my home on shelves and on desks and tables, and now in a storage bin, and eventually for a yard sale that's going to be some pretty cool knickknacks. Anyway, yard sales. There is a woman who's come up with a yard sale app to make it easier for people to find yard sales. And her name is Caitlin McGee. She's from London. And the app is called Yardly. Now, it's not readily available. She's in this, you can find it and you can download it and you can use Yardly to find yard sales. And it's not just the London area, but it primarily started there and now it's expanding. And of course, she wants to go nationwide and be available on, Google Apps and all these kinds of things. So she's growing her little home business, which is her app, which is because we can do it now. We can do it, especially with the help of AI. It's like, well, I don't know how to build an app. I don't know how to write code. I don't know how to. There are softwares and there's AI that can help you do that. So that's one of the things they first said about AI is computer programmers and things. Well, we need those when AI can just write all the code for us. And AI, write me some code and build me an app for yard sales. No, I don't think it was that simple for Caitlin, but certainly we're going to talk to her. I'm so interested in this because I love yard sales and I love trying to find them. And the thing about Caitlin, by the way, is she doesn't see an end to that kind of stuff, where you go down to the drugstore and you buy the big what's it called? I just lost the name of it. The big piece of cardboard that you buy in all colors. You always bought it for kids projects at school, and you oh my goodness, isn't this silly? I've blanked on the name of that thing. But anyway, you buy those and you buy the big markers, yard sale Saturday, 8 till noon, 23 Oak Street, you hang it up on the poles and tape it up, and then it rains and your sign is in tatters and it blows down the street. And I just love that. I love that whole thing. Yard sales, garage sales, in buildings, estate sales, flea markets, a lot of that stuff now taken away by your Kijijis and your eBays and your Facebook Marketplace. I know a lot of people just use those now, but there's just something about put all my stuff out in the driveway and see who comes by, see who gives me what, I actually have a collection of about 40 vintage cameras that if people come over, I've got them in a big shelving unit on display, and they kind of look nice. And that's why I started collecting them, because I thought they looked cool. And they all work if you could ever buy film. You just can't find film for these things. But I have some even with vintage flash bulbs and stuff. Anyway, a lot of different vintage cameras, and including a few movie cameras. And I started my collection because I always liked them. And then I started to see them at garage sales and yard sales. And I was like, how much is this? And it's like $3. I'll give you 2. Okay. You got to do that. And lo and behold, before you knew it, I had 10 and I had 15 and 20 and I've sort of peaked out at 40. I really don't need any more, but I love them. And people see them if they come over and they go, wow, you got a lot of cameras. That's cool. That's a lot of beautiful vintage cameras. And I'm like, yeah, that is worth dozens of dollars because that's all they're worth. I bought them for $2. I could maybe sell them for $5, but that's about it. It's not a profit center. It's just a yard sale thing. Anyway, we're going to talk about yard sales. Speaking of summer, okay, the other summer thing today that I want to do, because on Thursdays on the program, we do the Flipside, right? And on the flip side, we ask kind of just a more fun question and throw it out to you for whatever you think. And my question, I don't know if it's you know what? You always try and come up with a good question. Oh boy, everybody's going to love this question. And then you hope for the best. The question today, what is the one, and this is for 11:30, what is the one thing that you want to do this summer or want to get done this summer that you promised yourself? Because every year I think people make summer plans, and sometimes they're very concrete plans like, okay, this is the summer vacation to the cottage. This is when we're going to do this. This is when the family's going to visit from British Columbia. They're going to be here this week or whatever. There's specific things, yes, I know. But then I think every summer you have something you're going to do. You know what? I'm going to get the new barbecue. I'm going to replace it this summer. We're going to get the new barbecue. We're going to redo the deck. We're finally going to go to Algonquin Park for that trip that we always wanted to see, Algonquin Park, or whatever it is. We're going to paint the shed. I don't know. Just what is the one thing you promise yourself you're going to do this summer or get done this summer? So another little summer theme on our Thursday program. That is the Flipside question coming up at 11:30. What else we got in the show? Oh, we're going to talk just after 9:30. This is one of my favorite people. I was trying to figure out earlier this morning how many times in my radio life, and not just filling in here for Mike on 570 News Radio, but in my talk show career, as it were, how many times I have talked with Professor Peter Wollstonecraft, political science emeritus professor at Waterloo, just all the time. Like even when I was doing shows in Niagara, it's like if we had a political science issue or a political issue we wanted to talk about, can we get Professor Wollstonecraft? And that was always our number one get, you know, the number one person we wanted to try for, and we would get it. So I've talked to him many times. What are we going to talk to the professor about today? Well, you may have heard this story on 570 News Radio the last couple of days, and it's how mayors in Ontario are using their mayor's strong powers, the special powers that Doug Ford bestowed upon them in his grand benevolence back a few years ago. And it kind of worked this way. In 2022, you may remember that Doug Ford bestowed these strong mayor powers on the mayors of Toronto and Ottawa because he felt things weren't just getting done at a city level. That what was happening was in Toronto and Ottawa specifically at the time, that there was too much tied up in council debates and too much political back and forth, and it was just stalled and nothing was getting done. And that may be a decent point. So it gave the mayor certain powers to be able to pass bylaws even without a majority council vote. Okay. I believe it was even if only a third of a council approved of a project or a bylaw, the mayor had the power in Toronto and Ottawa to override that. And the main function was to encourage the building of more housing and infrastructure that contributes to housing. And that sounds really good. Okay, need more housing in Toronto and Ottawa, let's go. And then that expanded within months, I guess, to a few other areas. And by the way, the government of Ontario can also override the mayor's powers, as has happened occasionally, where even though the mayor says, okay, we're going to do this, and I have a mayor power according to this power that you've given me, I can pass this law even without a majority council vote. So mayors were doing that, and once in a while, or maybe just once, trying to remember, where the Office of Municipal Affairs or the ministry said, no, can't do that. We're going to overrule that. Sorry. And the mayor's like, yeah, but I have the powers. You said I could have the power. It's like, yeah, we giveth, we taketh away. So those powers then expanded to beyond housing and then beyond Toronto and Ottawa. over the next couple of years from 2022 on. And here we are today where some Ontario mayors have used the mayor's strong power to build pickleball courts, to erect flagpoles, to do things that are not connected to housing, which was the original goal 4 years ago, not connected to housing at all. What's going on? So that is our topic. And it's this great little topic to kind of delve into that we're going to talk about with Professor Wollstonecraft from Waterloo, Professor Emeritus at Waterloo, coming up at 9:30 this morning. So, and then we get into our summer stuff, and then Mike Farwell, as I said, coming up at 11 o'clock, and we're going to talk to him live from Kelowna and get our update on the Rangers, what the Rangers are doing with their time until Sunday, and who's looking good as the Rangers' opponent, and all that kind of stuff. And Mike has some good little background stuff. Did you hear the whole hair thing of the coaches this morning on 570 News Radio? As a Mike Farwell report about the coaches who were going to dye their hair if we went to the Memorial Cup, if we won the OHL, and that was it. It's a cool little story. So all that kind of stuff, the hockey stuff, the hockey-related stuff, the fun stuff surrounding the team and the tournament, and all that's coming up with Mike Farwell as our special guest at 11 o'clock this morning. And of course, at noon, it's our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. We throw open the phones, and it's whatever you want to talk about. And there is a lot to talk about. Hey, I want to mention, I want to mention at the beginning here, and we'll probably talk about this throughout the show, I imagine somewhere. But good luck to all the people from the Waterloo Region Health Coalition, into the hundreds and I think thousands who are getting on the GO train this morning, probably have already and on their way to a demonstration at Queen's Park, trying to stop the Doug Ford privatization train wreck, I believe is their slogan. Stop the Doug Ford privatization train wreck. And it's to do with privatization in healthcare, which I talked about yesterday. It's just something that's bugging me too, because we see it go that way, and we know that the conservatives in general, and Doug Ford in particular, seems to be leaning that way of privatization of healthcare being a more efficient way to run healthcare in the province. And I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. Unless the government, and through OHIP, pays private, which is partly what's already happening, but anyway, pays some private industry to provide publicly funded healthcare. In other words, there's certain now privatization of certain diagnostic clinics, imaging clinics, hip and knee assessment and surgeries. Some of those are leaning towards private companies providing the service. And that's just not good. It's not a good start. And there are people all over Ontario. I know the Waterloo Health Coalition is not the only ones going to Queen's Park today. They expect hundreds and maybe thousands from all kinds of communities to converge on Queen's Park today to protest that. And I hope Dougie looks out his little window there in his office and sees this and takes it to heart. Although I have my doubts about that, but I hope he does. So good luck to them as well as they travel to Queen's Park this morning. Much more to come. This is the Mike Farwell Show. I'm Larry Fedoruk, filling in here on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. And by the way, who would have thought that we'd be thrilled this morning to be paying about $1.74 a liter for gas? This is what it's come to. The gas gurus were correct yesterday that in the region we would see a drop in gas prices almost 10 cents, and it was 9 cents and something. So they were correct in that overnight, and people did wait. Wanted to buy gas yesterday, but didn't really need to, so they bought gas today instead. And we heard that one guy this morning was filling up his van was like 100 liters or something, and so he's saving himself I forget the math now, but in his case, it was a little over 100 liters. So he saved himself about $13, and it's like, yeah, that's significant. But we're like, oh, only $1.74 tomorrow? I'll wait. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not one to talk because I mentioned on the show before that I gave up my car about 5 years ago because I didn't need one anymore. And I certainly not sitting here going, oh, look at me, Mr. Green, Mr. Bus Rider, Mr. Walking and taking the bus, helping the planet. I drove for years and I would still love to drive. But at some point, I'm like, I don't need a car. So for me personally, because I can, best thing that ever happened. Don't need to pay for that car. Don't have a car payment. Don't need to pay for that parking space. Don't need to look for a parking space. Don't need to make sure the insurance is paid. Don't need to worry about that engine light coming on. The brakes need doing. Oh, it's time for an oil change. Oh, the tire, rotate the tire. Get the winter tires on. Get the winter tires off. Oh my gosh. And we all do that. We have vehicles. We all just do that by rote. It's just part of owning a car. And I did that for years. And I'm a car guy. I remember my first car, my second. I remember all my cars. Love the cars. But now that I don't have a car, oh man, this is great. Now, and of course, that is unfortunately just not practical for so many people. And we certainly do not have the infrastructure to go completely electric or even completely hybrid at this point. There's just no infrastructure there. And, that's a whole other topic. But boy, if you can give up the car, so I look at this. Anyway, my point was, I guess, is like, what did I pay for gas when I had a car 5 years ago? And I think it was $1.30. As a matter of fact, I think $1.30 is when I was complaining vehemently. $1.30, what? Gouging, yeah, $1.30. And normally I was paying like $1.15, $1.18. Now it's $1.74, and it's the war, but it war in Iran. I guess, I just don't know how far it goes down, because it's one of the things we need, and at some point, it's just like anything that goes up in price. It's just like any inflationary product that you still buy despite the high price because you have to or you want to. At some point, people go, well, if they'll pay $1.74 for gas, why should I sell it for $1.50? And I imagine it will come down eventually, but does it come down to my $1.18, or $1.15? I don't know. If those things come down. The same thing when I'm walking through the grocery store looking for deals. Most ridiculous price right now is beef. You can usually find deals on the other proteins. Beef, forget about it. A deal is like this little steak. It's $9. It's not even a very nice one. It's $9. But this roast is $35. Like, is that ever going to come down? Or are the producers just going to say, well, people are paying for that, so let's just keep charging that? And by the way, they do say beef is coming down. Beef is the next thing to come down. I don't know when, but I've certainly cut back on that. How did I get from there to gas prices? Oh, I don't know. We're just paying too much. I guess that was my point. Mayor's strong powers. I talked about it moments ago. It's something Doug Ford bestowed upon the mayors of Toronto and Ottawa back in 2022. It's since expanded the program, and it was meant for housing, but it's now gone towards, or the powers have been used to build pickleball courts and flagpoles and other interesting things. That is our topic with Peter Wollstonecroft, Emeritus Political Science Professor from Waterloo, when we come back here on 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Welcome back to the program. As I mentioned, we're going to get a little summer kind of theme going this morning, I guess. Inadvertently, we hit a theme, I guess. And it being summer, we're going to talk about summer yard sales with a woman from London who invented an app to help you find the yard sales in your neighborhood. It's just getting started, but It's up there. It's called Yardley, which I love that name, by the way. We want to speak to her, the inventor of Yardley. And at 10:30 this morning, the summer forecast from the Weather Network. You heard yesterday here that they released their summer forecasts, so we'll get a meteorologist from the Weather Network, Michael Carter, to talk about that at 10:30 this morning, get specific about what we can look forward to for June, July, and August in the region, and maybe take a glance across the country as well, because we know about smoke from a distant fire that can affect our weather, even though we may have the great weather. So all of that coming up on the program. Right now, as promised, we're going to talk about mayor's strong powers, or I guess the strong mayor powers that Ford bestowed on the mayors of Toronto and Ottawa back in 2022 to do with housing and infrastructure for housing, then expanded those areas and then expanded the number of mayors that could use the strong mayor powers. And the recent report is there's been some strange use of those strong mayor powers, not for housing and infrastructure, but for pickleball courts and flagpoles, among others. Here to discuss that, he's Professor Emeritus, Political Science, University of Waterloo. Peter Wollstonecroft is joining us. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, Larry.
I was trying to think this morning about how many times you and I have chatted in various iterations of talk shows, and
yes, we have.
It's a great number, but always great to have you back.
And thank you for the invitation.
So what were I understand the strong mayor powers were initially to do with housing and infrastructure, but what was the motivation? Was it kind of the idea of cutting through bureaucracy or less government? Was that the thought about it?
Well, that was the solution, and I go back to the 2022 municipal election. I follow these things closely, and every candidate for municipal council in Waterloo region talked about homelessness and the housing shortage and all of those kinds of things, encampments. And we had to do something. Most of them had only a vague idea of what to do. But it was clear that it was very much on the public's mind, and the provincial government was aware of that. And their explanation for the problems associated with not enough housing was that bureaucratic processes at the municipal level were too slow, not getting the job done. So, this is a common conservative complaint about government. And the interesting thing is, it has nothing to do with bureaucracy or the problems that we have in 2026. It has to do with the enormous changes in the Canadian economic system. And here's some examples. I won't go specific ones, but I'll just make the reference. If you drive around Waterloo, Kitchener, Cambridge, you can see all kinds of vacant lots or projects coming. I'm thinking of one in which the political process went on for 2 years, produced a solution, the community finally accepted the proposal, and that was in 2026, the spring thereof. Here we are in the spring of 26, 4 years later, nothing happened. So the point is, the market, the developers, have made decisions that there's not enough economic and population growth where we are in other parts of Ontario to warrant heightened building. I noticed that the population for Waterloo region went up by 90 people in 2025. So that's the explanation for it. And if you go to any community in Ontario, at least the ones that I've been in, which is a good part of southwestern Ontario to Toronto, I see exactly what I'm talking about. Vacant lots waiting for developers to complete the project that they have got approval for.
So it seems like bureaucratic bickering, but it's really the economy, stupid, as people say, right? It's the economy.
Bill, yes. Well, and why would, since Trump arrived on the scene, there were all kinds of economic problems before he arrived, but since he's arrived on the scene, if you were a business person looking to make investments, you have a big question. What are we dealing with here, and why would we do it? And also, there's been a big change in the student population, and immigration, and so the demand for housing has gone down. And the evidence for that is quite clear. There's been a slow but continual drop in the price of houses being sold, selling prices in Waterloo region. Well, that tells me market demand is not there. And to reiterate the point, in fact, I know of some projects that were approved by municipalities in Waterloo region that have been canceled because there isn't the demand. So it has nothing to do with the bureaucratic processes, or very little to do with that. It has more to do with the market conditions in which we're in.
Now, why, in your opinion, was then this strong mayor power expanded beyond housing and housing projects to various other things that now we see people have used those powers to build pickleball courts and so forth?
I didn't know there was such demand for pickleball courts. It's fun and games, and the legislation is poorly written because it doesn't say it has to be limited to such things, and I don't believe there is a stringent provincial control or scrutiny about what's going on. So, I understand the province's position, and the Doug Ford government was aware that the big issue facing people facing the province of Ontario was the housing question. Of course, it's a Canadian question as well, and so that they were vulnerable on that front, and they were looking for a solution. And their solution was to cut away the bureaucracy, give mayors "quote unquote" strong powers, which would enable a mayor of the right mind to move quickly, expeditiously, to address a serious problem that would, if it wasn't addressed, would really hurt the party in power. And I take it for granted that political parties in power like the idea of staying in power.
Well, there is a rule, I believe it's 1/3 of the council approves of something and 2/3 disapprove. The mayor could still override that. But I think there's a rule in there as well where council actually does have a veto over the mayor's strong powers. I'm not sure how that works, but it has happened.
You have to get a strong majority.
Right.
So the mayor and a third can do things. So it's a very divisive thing, and the presumption was that there was an institutional block in the way decisions were made, and I've been involved in various decisions, and sometimes I shake my head and say, "Well, I can't believe how long this is taking." However, if that's part of the problem, it's a very small part of the problem and not the solution to the problem. And the solution is a lot of people have lost their jobs. People are very concerned about their economic prospects, and so their willingness to take on mortgage obligations is very limited. And I hear that time and time again from people. I mean, I'm comfortably retired, but I'm also aware of what my grandchildren are saying, and they're my antennae on this.
Mm-hmm.
So
the strong mayor powers were also used on a police budget, I believe, in Sarnia.
Yeah, well,
they canceled the bus route in Windsor.
Sarnia. I mean, he's been around a long time, and he's a sly cat. And he thought he could get away with something, but he was called out on it, and well, he should have. So there is some supervision going on, but as the Star article said, hardly any of these strong mayor decisions have anything to do with housing. 2% was their estimate, so let's say they made a mistake. It's 4%. Doesn't matter. What they're saying is it was not a serious part of the use of the strong mayor's powers.
So do you take them away? Do you roll that back then, or do you just...
I would.
Yeah. Okay.
If I was a premier, no doubt about it, I would say that's not the problem. The problem is how do we build economic growth in the province of Ontario? And to blame the political process for it is to miss the point about where does economic growth come from? Serious question, big question. A lot of smarter people than I am debate that issue. However, very rarely would they point to political decision-making as being the problem.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't want to come out of left field here because we were talking about these strong mayor powers, but this threat of the notwithstanding clause to solve a problem when you disagree with an Ontario Superior Court justice also is a bit of a misfocus to me.
Yeah. Yes. Judge Perry, no, that's not Judge Graham, made a very good point, is you just can't force people out on the street and say, well, that's it, we've solved the problem.
Right.
And I mean, there has been some of a change. I've noticed some people who their view was, well, just send them away. And most people don't seem to understand that those people living in encampments in Waterloo Region are from Waterloo Region itself. They're not coming from Nipissing or Newfoundland or Alberta or wherever. They're coming from my local communities. And we have a lot of social problems. And so the judge is saying, you just can't throw people onto the street and pretend that the problem is not there anymore. And so, yes, and I want to underline this point. I think the housing issue is a serious one. And I worry very much about younger people in their 20s into the 30s, who look at the future and ask the question, how is it possible for me to buy a house or find a decent apartment? Now, maybe in 5 years this will be a non-problem, but right as we speak in 2026, not so.
We'll stop there. Professor, great insights as always. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you too. Have a good one.
You as well. Peter Wollstonecroft is Professor Emeritus Political Science, University of Waterloo, someone I've talked to many times over the years about political issues. In this case, the strong mayor powers that the report says have been used were initially intended for Toronto and Ottawa. That expanded, and then it expanded beyond the original mandate, which was you use these powers to get housing projects going and infrastructure to deal with housing, and that's the way we're going to solve the homeless issue. Because it's caught up in bureaucratic bickering in council and all that, which, as the professor pointed out, is not really the issue. But then it expanded, and again, where did they do it? Rideau Lakes, Timmins. They did pickleball courts. Aurora used it to approve a big sign, a big illuminated block letter sign like they have in Toronto City Hall. They wanted one that said Aurora. There was the police budget in Sarnia. There was a bus route that was canceled in Windsor. Just things not to do with housing. So your thoughts on this? We'll return to the topic in a moment. Short break here. Larry Fedorkin from Mike Farwell, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Be right back.
As the Star article said, hardly any of these strong mayor decisions have anything to do with housing. 2% was their estimate. So let's say they made a mistake. It's 4%. Doesn't matter. What they're saying is it was not a serious part of the use of the strong mayor's powers.
I'm Larry Fedorkin from Mike Farwell, and moments ago I spoke there to Peter Wollstonecroft, Professor Emeritus, Political Science, University of Waterloo. One of my favorite people. I like when he said, people smarter than I. He said that. The professor says this, and I'm like, I was going to say, I don't think there are people smarter than you. Not many. Usually when they need smart people to make decisions about certain things, Peter Wollstonecroft is one of the people they call. Say, can you be in our committee? Which he has done. But nevertheless, he was talking about the strong mayor powers, and that was the story, that so few of the strong mayor powers. And if you're just joining us, you may remember 2022, Doug Ford said, too much bureaucracy. And that's there's generally a conservative thought that even a lot of people think. You don't have to be necessarily libertarian or conservative to be a fan of less government. You know, a lot of people say less government, too much bureaucracy, too much this, too much bickering. And in some cases, that is one of the commonly accepted flaws of democracy, right? Is that everybody gets a voice. Everybody gets a voice. And sometimes that can bog things down, but it's not. If that was the issue, and the professor pointed out correctly, I think, that it wasn't really the bureaucracy that, you know, the council debates and not being able to pass regulations that was the main issue behind lack of housing. It was the economy. And by the way, and I hope you know that when I said to the professor, it's the economy, stupid, that I'm quoting a line from an American political campaigner and expert, James Carville. And James Carville is still around, and people quote him all the time because I think when he was working with Clinton still, somebody asked him what some of the issues are. What did he feel the issues were in the election? And he famously said, "It's the economy, stupid." You know, like, it's always the economy. It's always, how well am I doing? What am I paying for stuff? Can I make a living? What's my salary? Is it worth anything? You know? And he's been quoted a number of times in the last 30 years. So it's just a line that's in my head all the time. And when the professor was talking about the economy, that's why I said it's the economy, stupid, not he's stupid, not the James Carville quote. So I wanted to clarify that in case anybody had not heard that quote and thought that I was calling the professor stupid, which of course I would not do because he's not. But so it's the economy is the in the bigger picture. Why would you give the mayors these strong mayor powers? And it kind of made sense at the time because, as I said, many of us go, oh, yeah, bureaucracy. Oh, yeah, less government, which in itself could be a problem for a lot of things. But in this case, it wasn't the problem. Did Toronto and Ottawa mayors immediately then clear the deck for more housing projects? They did not. And why? Because that wasn't the issue. And the Ford government and the Municipal Affairs Ministry said, well, we'll expand beyond housing. You can use your strong powers for other things. And there was a list of those, pretty specific, I guess. And then they expanded it beyond Toronto and Ottawa. So that's the quick story again, that all kinds of mayors suddenly had a strong mayor power. So the mayor and 1/3 of council could move ahead on projects instead of a mayor and a majority vote at council, right? So a third could do. And if a mayor went ahead beyond that, and you got enough of a majority of council also had, and I don't pretend to know the particulars of this part of the ruling, but council ultimately, if they can gain enough support, has a veto power over the mayor's veto power, so to speak, right? I'm going to veto your veto. How do you like that? Yeah, well, I'll veto the veto of your veto. So there's that goes on. But as I said, Barrie, Ontario, erected this 50-meter, is it 50 meter? I think it is, flagpole that has this, or tall flagpole that had a 50-meter, no, it couldn't be a 50-meter flag. Well, way to go, Larry, way to get your stats in order. But nevertheless, they erected this, because we're Canada proud and we're fighting the Donald and all this kind of stuff. So we need a massive flagpole with a massive Canadian flag as you enter Barrie, Ontario. And everyone's like, yeah, I don't know. It sounds like it costs a lot of money. I don't know if we should be spending that. And the Barrie mayor used his strong mayor powers to erect a flagpole. And the mayor of Aurora used it to make sure they have a big block letter illuminated sign that says Aurora, like the one in Toronto that says Toronto, right? So it's been used for everything but housing, and the percentage of strong mayor powers used for housing is single digits small, okay? So, and I like the professor's idea. Just roll that back now It's done. Roll back the strong mayor powers. Next on the program, yard sales and how to find them with a new app that's been invented from a woman in London. Caitlin McGee, she's going to join us next on 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoric.
And my special guest, Mike Farwell, at 11 o'clock this morning, live from Kelowna, just to get an update on what the team is up to and what's happening, and in anticipation of the big game on Sunday and what's happening in the Memorial Cup in general. Who better than the voice of the Rangers, Mike Farwell, live from Kelowna, coming up at 11 o'clock this morning, guesting on his own show. In the meantime, this hour, we've inadvertently hit a bit of a summer theme. Coming up at 10:30 this morning, Michael Carter with the Weather Network. Yesterday, they released their summer forecast. So what do we expect in the coming weeks and months here in Kitchener-Waterloo, and maybe a glance across the country as well as for the summer forecast from the Weather Network coming up at 10:30, just after 10:30. And I say summer theme because we're going to talk about yard sales here, which is a real spring-summer thing for me, and I know they go into the fall and maybe sometimes year round, but generally it's the nicer weather where we see a lot of yard sales. And our guest has come up with an app to make it easier for us yard sale junkies to find out where the yard sales are. The app is called Yardly, and the creator is Caitlin McGee, who joins us now. Good morning, Caitlin.
Good morning.
What do you got for sale? What I'll give you $2. No, okay. So I love yard sales. I've mentioned this. This is just so after my own heart here. Did I describe the app? What does it do? Why don't you describe the app and how you came up with this idea?
Yeah. So right now the app is primarily finding and posting yard sales. And it's special because it has map view. So you can see live yard sales right next to you, right in your neighborhood. It's all community based. It's awesome. There is also, you can view them grid view if you like that better. And then posting a sale, letting more people know about your sale or the next town over. That's really the entire idea of it. And that's pretty much why I came up with the idea, because who likes browsing all of these other like yard sale listings and you don't know where it is. You can't see it. There's no map. So
the process used to be, and I'm a fan, but I mean, I had friends who were beyond fans. That was their planned out, Saturday was hitting the yard sales, and they would go through in the day newspaper ads or local bulletin boards or whatever they could. Is that still going on, or is that not as easy to do anymore?
I think personally that a lot of the paper is not used as much. Newspapers are not so commonly used.
Sure.
But the yard sale signs at the end of the streets are very much still used. And that's great for people that are just out casually driving. Yardly Finds is more for people that are purposely looking for yard sales. They want to know what's going on in their community, or even just the towns next door, like townwide sales and community sales that are going on. So it really helps as an alternative source.
Really does. And with the map view and all that, you could kind of plan out a route. Say, okay, I'm going to hit this one, and that one, and then swing around home and do this one or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. On your Leaf Finds right now, there's not a dedicated route feature, but you could more than likely plan it out yourself. The entire app, it uses the Google Maps integration. So even if you're not really sure, like say you don't know where that address is, well, you can use Street View and Satellite and actually locate the address, make sure you've got it correct.
And as far as posting my yard sale, I obviously date and time and location.
Yes.
Can I post anything else?
You absolutely can. So the other features that are there on when you post your sale is a brief description. So you could say, if you're having like barbecue or lemonade or any little other tidbit you want to add on, you can add a photo or a flyer if you wanted to. That makes a lot of people like to do that. And then you can also select categories like if you're going to have sports stuff, automotive stuff, so on and so forth. It's really help people who are looking for yard sales. They can actually filter out all that stuff.
Now, we say yard sales, but what about, I guess they're the same thing, but garage sales or estate sales? Does that qualify?
Yes, absolutely. So right now there is 7 categories, which sounds overwhelming, but there's so many different types of yard sales that happen. So estate sales, community sales, townwide sales. I've actually just learned about trunk sales. Your regular sale, yeah, it's just a bunch of people. They just kind of all meet up and they call it boot sales or trunk sales right out of your car. It's really cool. There's also like rummage sales and then the regular sales, of course. And community is for multifamily too. So it's both. And you have a neighborhood sale essentially.
Right, right. Which are great. Oh, I love those because it's just a bunch of yard sales in walking distance. Love that. I've never heard about the trunk sales. That's great because as an apartment person, I always wondered, should I try and organize a yard sale in our building and we all take over the front yard in our street? But this would be a way to do it. Just get a location and fill your car up and go there. Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah, it's completely new to me also. I have personally seen people have yard sales outside of apartment buildings, so you wouldn't be the first to do it.
Right, right. Yeah, I've seen that as well. Now, what about, I know people still do yard sales and it's fun to do and it's easy for people because you haul it out to the driveway basically and put up some signs. And I think even with your app, you would encourage people to put up the Bristol board and the neighborhood signposts and things.
Absolutely. I don't ever want those to go away. They're great, especially for people who are just out casually driving and suddenly they see that sign. You should still be doing that. Absolutely. This is just really an alternative because really what was yard sales before? A newspaper, sign, and word of mouth. And What do we still do? We post online, we post our signs. And now instead of just word of mouth, you have an entire local community-based application that will help spread the word of your yard sale.
And I'm amazed at the culture of yard sale shoppers, buyers. The last one I did, last time I was in a house, put the signs up around the neighborhood, 8 o'clock Saturday morning. And, 7:15, there's people parked outside waiting for me to open.
Yeah.
Like, there's some real keeners out there. I guess because you never know what you're going to find. Now, the question I was getting at, though, was the competition, so to speak, from the Kijijis and Facebook marketplaces, places like that. Has that kind of taken over the yard sale culture?
I think they tried to. Just my personal opinion. It's not. Those marketplace apps are more for individual items, and it's really hard because, say, I wanted to see what yard sales were in St. Thomas. Yes, there is groups for that. But typically you have to live in the area to join the group. And then you're definitely not going to know any of the addresses there. So having the ability to have the map view or grid view based on distance really helps you locate the things that you're looking for.
Yeah. I have friends who use it. And then eventually you're going to agree to meet someone somewhere and at some safe location to exchange the item for the payment. And it's really not yard sale at all. I was just wondering if that kind of thing, though, has quelled the spirit of yard sale, but I guess not.
No, yard sales will forever live on. Speaking of buy and sell, though, anybody who has been to yardlyfinds.com, you probably noticed there is a classifieds buy and sell section underway. That is solely so that Yardly is more than just a spring summertime app. It's really transforming. It's really cool to see that a basic map view yard sale app really has the potential and opportunities from the community's help to become a secondhand platform.
Mm-hmm. And that just in itself, it's so huge. Of the whole idea of yard sales is to hold on and recycle, and one person's junk is another's treasure, and all those kinds of sayings. I think that's important. So is the app readily available? I know you're from London and you're expanding the area, but what about other regions and how does this app grow?
Yes. So you can absolutely, anybody in Canada, obviously we're in southwestern Ontario, so we're going to be the ones to use it first. But yeah, all you do is just go to yardlyfinds.com and you have free reign. It is free to use. There is no subscription fees. You just make an account and you can post and find sales right away.
Wow. Okay. And are you on Google or any of those, or is that a next step to be available on all these platforms as an app?
Yes, it is currently in closed testing for Google Play right now.
Okay. Is there also a test coming up or that you want people to be a part of as well?
Yes, so that is the Google Play Store testing for the closed testing. Google requires 12 users to use for 14 days. So after all the testing is done, then Yardly will be available for publishing or, to live download right off of Google Play.
I wanted to ask you at the beginning, how did you come up with this? Was it just you're a yard sale fan, or what was the inspiration?
I am a yard sale fan, absolutely. And I was just browsing through one day. It was the summer of, I think it was 2024. And I was just seeing all these awesome yard sales, and I did not know where they were because I'm actually not from London. I'm from Guelph. So I just kind of went from there. I was like, this could be a real thing. And
right.
I really took it upon myself. I started sketching out what it could look like and all the features it could have. And yeah, I really took it upon myself to give it a try.
And you're not a computer or coder person really by trade or anything, so you had to learn all that.
No, I'm actually blue collar. I was building houses before this.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe that, but
well, so you're a builder. Whatever you're building, houses, apps, you're a builder. Let's say
yes,
that.
I'm a builder. I'm a learner. I like the challenge. It's been so much fun.
Well, I just think it's brilliant, and it's called Yardly. And if you're a fan of yard sales or even just the occasional person in the summer who likes to visit them, it would be the app. It's called Yardly, and the creator, Caitlin McGee. Hey, Caitlin, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope to see more people at yardlyfinds.com for this summer and from here on out.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. What a great idea, huh? We'll talk more about this and yard sales, and gosh, I love them. Now, as I said, I've tried to cut back over the last couple of years. I'm thinking of now I got to pick it up again, got to pick up my game again and get back out there with Yardly, of course. This is 570 News Radio. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. Back in a moment.
This is just really an alternative because really what was yard sales before? A newspaper, sign, and word of mouth. And
right.
What do we still do? We post online, we post our signs. And now instead of just word of mouth, you have an entire local community-based application that will help spread the word of your yard sale.
Caitlin McGee, the creator of a new app called Yardly. She's out of London, but it's growing fast through southwestern Ontario. An app where you can find the yard sales in your neighborhood. And with map view there, you can even plan a route. Eventually, as she was saying, the app could plan a route for you, but right now in its early stages, now as it's building, you use the map view, and there's the yard sales, and I'd like to visit all 5 of them or what have you, and here's how I'm going to do it. Yard sale fans, it's great. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. And when I saw that we were going to have Caitlin on, I was very excited because I love yard sales, and they're just fun because of the idea of stuff that somebody had that was a treasure, and the next thing you know, it's sitting on a table in the driveway for 50 cents, right? But to you, it's worth more. One person's junk is another person's treasure, and all that kind of stuff. So there's so much about it that is just great, and it's a great for people who have yard sales. It's a great purge, I had friends that were it was a buddy I used to work with. His mom and that was their activity. That's how they bonded and connected every weekend, was they planned out their yard sale route, and they would do it by newspaper and bulletin board and street signs and everything they'd figure out. And this was their side hustle, which a lot of people now do through Kijiji and eBay and Facebook Marketplace and others. But this was their side hustle, was they would go to garage sales and see what they could find for $1 and sell for $5. Right? Or in some cases they did restorations and brought things up to $2 items. They brought them back to great value. I mean, it's just a great family thing for friends, for families, as I said, to do. So just love the whole idea of it. And I was harkening back too. Has anybody heard George Carlin's piece about stuff? It's just called Stuff, and it's probably 30, 40 years old, the piece. But it is with many things George Carlin, it's still good. It still lives. It still rings true. And he does this whole thing about Stuff, got to have stuff, got to keep your stuff. Your house, what is your house? It's just a place for your stuff. Sometimes you get too much stuff, so you need a bigger house. Why? More stuff, like Carlin, right? And it's genius, and it rings true because we're about our stuff, collecting our stuff, and we don't throw out our stuff. Show me a garage anywhere in Kitchener-Waterloo where you can actually park the car inside. I'll bet you the majority cannot because it's full of stuff. Your attic and basement full of stuff. Why don't you just throw out the stuff? One of the biggest growth industries in the last 20 years has been the storage industry, because you have so much stuff, you can't even keep it where you live. You need to rent a place to keep some stuff. Why don't you throw it out? Well, I don't know. I don't want to throw it out. I don't use it every day. I don't need it, but I don't want to throw it out. So I'm going to rent a storage bin, a storage locker. Every apartment has a storage closet or a storage bin in the basement that belongs to your apartment where you keep stuff that you're not throwing out for some reason or selling. And at some point it gets too much and you sell stuff. I don't get too many yard sales, but every once in a while around where I live, I'll see estate sales, and those are well, in my building, the estate sales were usually because somebody was moving into a home or had passed, and it was the adult children getting rid of the stuff. So it was sad. There's a sadness to it, but at the same time, hey, and I remember one where the woman was pretty old, but she was still there, and she was going, I guess, to live with her kids or a residence or something. So she's getting rid of all her stuff. And I see this little vase. It's just this little yellow glass vase that's really pretty, like a single flower, small vase. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Do I need a single flower vase? No. Do I want this one because it's just beautiful and unique? Yes. What is it? $2? I don't even argue. I don't even go, I'll give you $1. I'm just like, I'll take this. I'll take this. And she proceeds to tell me the story of the vase, how her and she's 80 something probably at this point. But when she was 20, her and a friend went to Europe, and she saw this vase in a little store or somewhere in Italy. And she bought it because she wanted to have it, but she wasn't sure how she was going to get it home. And the care she took to wrap it in T-shirts and socks and everything, because she had to carry it around Europe for 3 weeks and then back in luggage and on the plane home, and I'm like, I just didn't buy this vase. I'm now the keeper of the story, right? This story belongs to me. Well, we share it. It's her story, but I'm the keeper of the story now. So I have the vase, and people say, hey, that's a nice little vase. I'm like, well, this woman was in Europe when she was 18 and 20, and she traveled, and it's on. I share the story, as I just have now, obviously. And that, to me, is yard sales, estate sales, garage sales, that kind of thing, where you find these things. And isn't it interesting now, the boot sales, boot being the English term for trunk of a car. They have trunk or boot sales where if you don't have a yard or you don't have they find a place now, and you just kind of fill your trunk of your car with your stuff, and your SUV, your minivan, whatever, you fill it up, and you sell stuff out of the trunk of the car. And it's like 4, 5, 10 more people maybe, all with different trunks full of their stuff, and they're selling it for and that's the appeal of yard sales. Am I right about that? It's $1 or $2. Oh, and by the way, while I was talking to Caitlin, I thought of it. I was talking about this at the beginning of the show at the 9:00 hour, and talking about making the homemade sign for the yard sale, where you go to the drugstore and you buy the sheet of, and it was Bristol board. And I couldn't think of that name. It just left my brain, and there was no way it was coming back. And then that's the kind of thing, if you think of something else, it'll come back to you. And I left it, and it came back to me, Bristol board. Going in, buy the Bristol board in And usually for the yard sales, you pick the neon greens and oranges and stuff so that they stand out, and the big marker, and you make the sign. And, this Saturday, 8 till noon, 23 Oak Street. And that's part of it. And that's what Caitlin said, you should still do that. You don't have to go, you can go on the app, Yardly, and put up a notice for your yard sale, but still put up the neighborhood signs. It's part of living in a neighborhood, is spotting those homemade yard sale signs. It's just part of our summer. What is our summer going to be like? You may have heard yesterday on 570 News Radio that the Weather Network released their summer forecast. We're going to speak to a meteorologist from the Weather Network, Michael Carter, coming up next to look at the summer of 26 here on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
And my special guest, Mike Farwell, just after the 11 o'clock news. So in about half an hour from now, we'll hear from Mike once again live in Kelowna, updating the few days that the Rangers have off and what they're doing to prepare for Sunday, and just a general update on the Memorial Cup and what's happening there from the man himself, Mike Farwell, coming up in about a half an hour's time. At 11:30, it's our Flipside. The question today, keep it in mind and give me a call after 11:30 on our Flipside segment. What is the one thing you promised yourself you will do this summer, or that you will get done this summer? Everybody has the summer plans. What's that one thing? Tell me about it on our Flipside just after 11:30. Speaking of summer, yesterday the Weather Network released their summer forecast for our region, well, for all of Canada, actually. But I want to talk about what's happening here as well. Joining us from the Weather Network, meteorologist Michael Carter. Good morning, Michael.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. By the way, is it your field or is it the Weather Network specifically? But you have a meteorological summer that is different from the solstice dates and all that, right?
Absolutely. That's 100% correct. As Mets, the meteorologist, climatologist, we tend to look at things by the calendar month. So we consider summer actually June, July, and August. So we're coming up on meteorological summer here just in a couple of days, which is why we're releasing this outlook this week.
Which is, by the way it should be. I think that's the way most people look at summer, and they look at fall as September, October, November, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah,
if you're out today in the sunshine, hopefully you're feeling the summer vibes already. No need to wait for the solstice to happen.
There's two things that are going on, I guess, in your forecast. One is El Niño, and the other is the jet stream. So first of all, can you give me a Weather 101 course on El Niño and El Niña? Because I always confuse the two, and they're different things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is something that, as meteorologists, something we pay a lot of attention to. This is a global pattern driver. This is actually, it begins in the equatorial waters of the Pacific, off the coast of South America. There can be a signal of either warmer than normal or colder than normal water down there. And you're thinking like, well, why do we care? That's pretty far away. But it actually has an influence on the jet stream across the entire northern hemisphere. It steers that jet as it comes into North America, as it comes into Canada, and that really influences our pattern. Now, El Niño really focuses on the winter months. It's a November, December, January phenomenon. But there is a transition that happens. We're coming out of a La Niña winter into an El Niño winter. That transition is happening right in the middle of our summer, which is overshadowing our summer pattern a little bit, and it's going to have some influence on our weather right here in southern Ontario.
So the El Niño is basically the water temperature and the temperature that's coming up from that, and the jet stream is moving that particular air.
Yeah, exactly. It's that pool of warm water, in some cases very warm water. We're expecting this to be quite a strong El Niño. And when you get that big of a driver somewhere on the globe, it affects the weather everywhere. Of course, we have a very connected system. The ocean, the atmosphere, the entire planet is very connected. So when something that significant is happening, even though it's thousands of kilometers away, it has a big influence on the weather that we experience.
So if we narrow it down a bit to Ontario and our region, what is that going to mean for us?
Well, as I mentioned, we're in a transition right now. We're not into El Niño yet. That's coming up for this winter. I'm sure we'll be back talking about that when we do our winter forecast release in a few months. But the transition is what's happening right now. And what that's going to create is a lot of changeability in the jet stream. It's going to be unstable. It's going to have a hard time locking into a pattern because the entire planet's kind of in this state of transition. there's going to be a lot of changeability in the pattern. What that means for us in terms of the summer is a lack of a locked-in pattern. Sometimes we will get seasons, and I'm sure your listeners will have experienced this, where we just kind of get the same weather all summer long. We're locked into, low 30s, high humidity, lack of precipitation, drought conditions. That's not going to be the case this summer. The changeability that the jet stream is going to bring is going to bring, I think, on the whole, a pretty comfortable summer for us here in southern Ontario. Overall, we expect temperatures to average out a bit below normal, so more days kind of in the mid-20s rather than the upper 20s, the low 30s. But we will not be without heat, without humidity this summer. It's just going to come in short bursts rather than coming to stay and settling in for long periods of time.
Is that going to be, and I know we can't set a clock to it, but here, as opposed to June, July, and August, are we looking over the next couple of weeks of can you break it down to?
I certainly can, yeah. June is looking particularly spring-like as opposed to summer-like. Sometimes you get into a June where, already summer's kind of in full speed ahead and you're getting those 30-degree days pretty frequently in the month of June. That is happening in parts of Canada this year. It's going to be happening out west primarily, where they're already dealing with pretty significant heat waves, temperatures in the low 30s. For us in the eastern half of the country, it is going to be more of a spring-like June. So if you like those temperatures in the low 20s, mid-20s that maybe were hard to find in the earlier part of the spring season, you're going to get plenty of opportunity to make up that ground. So I think a pretty comfortable month, not a lot of heat expected for June, and then more classic summer weather into July and August.
Kind of, we always feel, at least by August, those dog days where we tend to, at least I feel we sign out August in heat and humidity, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that'll certainly happen this year. No summer in Canada is going to have a total absence of heat and humidity. When we're talking about these summer patterns, this is kind of, we're looking at against normals, against maybe the last 30 years, let's say, of history. Are we going to be on the hotter side, the colder side? We'll probably tip a little bit below average, but that certainly doesn't mean you're not going to get your patio days. You certainly are. You're going to get plenty of opportunity to be on the golf course, on the lake, at the cottage, wherever you like to spend your summer. You're going to get plenty of opportunity to get out and enjoy the great weather this upcoming summer, even if when we run the numbers, it tips a little below normal by the end of August.
When you say a little below normal, that's okay. I don't mind that, certainly. And I think a lot of people love those low mid-20s days. I do as well.
Yeah, and you don't have to run your air conditioner back-to-back days. Sometimes it's kind of nice to have some relief, some changeability in the pattern. You don't get totally locked into any one regime, and I think that's going to be the case this summer. Now,
what about the West, and certainly, grain belt and all that? We have to think about that, and food production and in the BC Okanagans and all that. What is the West looking at? I heard that they might be looking at some drier, hotter weather.
Exactly that, and that's something we watch very closely with these seasonal forecasts, especially this summer. The West, of course, is very prone to dry conditions, hot conditions setting up, and this changeable jet stream pattern will allow for some heat to build in across Western Canada. It has been a bit of a dry spring out there for folks that have been following the weather out in Western Canada. Alberta has been a bit dry. BC's been a bit dry. So we do expect this could be a bit of a hot, dry summer out there. Now, where that directly impacts us, in addition to, as you mentioned, food production, agriculture production, which of course affects the entire country, but also the wildfire season. As your listeners probably know, when we get fires that are widespread in Western Canada, that jet stream that we just talked about brings that smoke to the east. The jet stream flow from west to east across the country when there are significant wildfires out west. It does impact our air quality. We get the hazy skies. Sometimes we even get the poor air quality at the surface from the more significant fires. So that's something that we're watching very closely for this season. It's not a total heat dome summer out there. It's not a summer where they're going to be pushing 40 every day in the BC interior. But the hot, dry, prevailing conditions could certainly lead to an increased risk of wildfire, as well as potentially some risk of drought for the agricultural season out there.
Now, that's certainly not a weather-specific thing that you can predict about how many wildfires we'll have, but it is related, as you say. And I always remember the reports during the summer when wildfires hit that a big wildfire can have almost its own weather system. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, it affects the propagation of the fire. It affects the surrounding conditions. It can make the fires very difficult to fight. There are experts, certainly, that spend a lot of time studying wildfire weather and the conditions that those fires create. And, of course, we can get fires closer to home as well. Northern Ontario, northern Quebec, certainly no stranger to wildfire activity. So there is always the potential. That tends to be a little earlier in the summer season, as you know, and then as we get later into the summer, the threat shifts west. So August, September, that's where you see those fires in Alberta, BC, that do tend to send smoke our way at times.
Because that jet stream, I'm trying to picture the model that I saw on the Weather Network website. It's kind of a line across that does push, as you said, I believe, west to east and downward. South,
yeah, exactly that. Exactly. The prevailing flow is west to east, but we always have modulation in the jet stream. We call it troughs and ridges, hills and valleys. And what happens is when you're under higher pressure, drier conditions, hotter conditions, that jet stream will arc to the north. That's what we expect to happen in Western Canada. Here in Eastern Canada, the Great Lakes, and heading into Quebec as well, there's going to be a dip in the jet stream pretty persistently this summer. The jet stream moves a little bit south. It allows that cooler, fresher air from higher latitudes to push down into our part of the world.
Well, I'm also thinking, too, of those shots on CNN of New York and Philadelphia with the smoke from Canada.
Yeah, of course. That certainly can happen. We'll have to follow that story closely as the summer goes on. We'll see when the fires, begin to initiate and how quickly they spread. But it certainly is a risk with the pattern that we have for this upcoming summer season.
The Weather Network summer forecast. So for South Ontario, Southwest Ontario, and it looks pretty good. Maybe, as you said, a little less than normal temperatures, but pretty good summer. I think sounds like it. A
comfortable and changeable summer. I think going to be a lot of opportunity for folks to get out and enjoy this year.
Terrific. Always. We all love talking about the weather. So it's great to talk with you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Michael Carter is a meteorologist with the Weather Network. They released their summer forecast yesterday. And just on that, the meteorological summer, which is June, July, August. Excuse me, I missed them. June, July, August. And the fall is September, October, November, and the winter's 3 months and the spring is 3 months. That's kind of I like that because I understand the science of June 21st and September 21st and those kind of seasonal days that are official markers of a season. But the way we think about it, I love the fact that I would use their calendar above the official one any time. And their summer forecast, as you just heard, for June, July, August for us, not bad. Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. So that is good to hear. More in a moment. This is 570 News Radio, and we're also on Rogers TV.
I'm sure your listeners will have experienced this, where we just kind of get the same weather all summer long. We're locked into low 30s, high humidity, lack of precipitation, drought conditions. That's not going to be the case this summer. The changeability that the jet stream is going to bring, it's going to bring, I think, on the whole, a pretty comfortable summer for us here in Southern Ontario. Overall, we expect temperatures to average out a bit below normal, so more days kind of in the mid-20s, but we will not be without heat, without humidity this summer. It's just going to come in short bursts rather than coming to stay and settling in for long periods of time.
I'm Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. That was my guest, Michael Carter, meteorologist with the Weather Network, talking about their summer forecast, which they released officially yesterday, and saying that, we're going to have, we're not going to sizzle this summer in Southern Ontario, but we're going to simmer, I think is, in other words, we're going to have some nice days, but and we're going to have some heat and humidity towards the end of summer. But we're going to have our rain, which is, summer rain, as long as it's not, 5 days in a row and we're building an ark. We love the summer rain. I love the summer rain. It's good for the flowers. It's good for the lawn, that kind of thing. So we're going to have that. And we're going to have June, as he said, going to be some mid-20s, maybe some lower 20s days, mid-20s, which sounds very comfortable to me. If it was 25 and sunny for every day, I would say I'm fine with that. Don't need 30. Don't need. I don't mind 30. I kind of like the heat. But if you said 25 all summer long, I'd go, that's terrific. So we're going to have that for June and then warming up in July. That's pretty good. Thank you to Michael Carter. And by the way, I didn't tell Michael. I think I've told you before, but I didn't want to say to Michael, I cannot say the word meteorologist. And you're going, well, you just said it. Actually, I did not. There's certain words, I think everybody in media has those, and maybe everybody in life, but there's certain words that trip me up. Meteorologist is one of them. Mayoral is another one. I don't know why. It just kind of vexes me when I have to say it. So statistics, got to really think about it to say it. And I noticed that one trips up a lot of news anchors and radio people. Statistics. How many statistics? How many people can't say statistics? What do the stats say? That's why I develop tricks. I say stats. More often than not, I don't say statistics. I say stats. Statistics Canada, when they started calling themselves Stats Can, I'm like, thank you, bless you, Stats Can. That's so much easier. I don't say mayoral race. I say the race for mayor when it comes up. And so meteorologist, what I'm actually saying is I broke it down. And you could say, well, meteor and ologist. And I was like, yeah, okay, I could do that. But even that was vexing me. So I came up with one that worked for me. And it's meaty urologist. So he's a urologist who is beefy and meaty. He's a big guy. He's a meaty urologist. And if I say it fast, meaty urologist, nobody knows. Except now I'm telling you, but normally nobody knows. And so I always make while I'm trying to I'm very serious about this topic of the summer and what's our weather going to be like. And Michael's an expert and he's terrific and he knows his stuff. But I'm a 12-year-old little boy giggling inside. I'm calling him a meaty urologist and he doesn't know it. Because it just helps me say the word meteorologist. See? You think I said meteorologist? I didn't. I said meteorologist. There you go. We have a summer theme coming up on our Flipside. Also, just after 11:30, we, Thursdays on the Flipside, we ask a fun question and get your responses on it. And we come up with them, and if they go, they go. If they don't, they don't. Then we can talk about something else. But the question you can think about for 11:30 this morning is what is the one thing you promised yourself you're going to do this summer, or that you were going to get done this summer? I think for me, I'm up for another purge of my storage closet. I've done, and I know that's more of a spring cleaning thing, or I could do it in the winter. I could do it any time. But for some reason I said, this summer I'm going to get to that because I've purged my storage room twice and it still kind of looks like it's full of junk. And why is that? And I'm always amazed at the items that survive the purge. Okay. So I'm not throwing these out. You know what? I'll throw those out next time. I'll throw this out now, but I'm saving those. And then the next time around, those go out. Or maybe they say, so I've been through a couple of purges now where I've just cleaned out stuff like, oh, holy smokes, I can't believe I had all that junk. And then put everything back that I kept, and it's like, well, the place still looks full. Well, what the heck? That's not what I wanted, because I hauled a bunch of stuff down to the trash bins, and what's going on here, And I'm always amazed, too, during a purge of the stuff that survives. Like, that for me, I have one that's really symbolic, and it's the final exam I wrote, final essay exam that I wrote for a sociology class in university that I got a B on, and I probably should have I think I should have got an A. I thought I was going to get a D because I just went off on a tangent. And the professor went, yeah, okay, you didn't really answer the question, but I like what you're saying. I'll give you a B. And I saved it. So when I go through that stack of papers and I'm like, why am I saving? I don't know. I read through it one day and I'm like, boy, this is a load of crap. This is not, it's not like I looked at it and I said, well, I should write a book based on this. This is really it's not. It's the rantings of a 19-year-old, trying to get away with something at university. And so you can answer that question. For me, it's another maybe clean or a purge. And maybe I got some fun stuff on the list as well. But what's the one thing you promised yourself you would do this summer or you would get done. That's our flip side coming up at 11:30. Here's George. George calling the show. Hey, George, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Larry. I'd like to help you out with your purge.
Okay.
I will take any hockey or baseball cards that you saved from the 50s and 60s. I'm glad to take them off your hands and maybe even give you a little bit of money for them.
Okay. I really don't have any, but I'll take the money. Oh, okay. You know what, George? I'll tell you this right now. I was the kid who probably had that rookie Mickey Mantle card in the spokes of my bicycle.
Oh my goodness! Oh, the Bobby Orr you might have had.
Yeah, I'm probably that guy. I didn't save any of them, and yeah.
Could you imagine what they'd be worth today if you had saved them pristine condition?
I know. Who thought?
All right.
But thank you, George, for the. If I come up with anything I think you're interested in, I'll let you know. All right. There's someone in my family who is a collector, who collects a lot of cards, and not necessarily going through the closets and finding those old cards. And I wouldn't say the person is into, these cards you hear that are worth like six figures and higher. But as a collector, and if I had any cards, I would keep them in the family. Sorry, George, but I would do that instead. I'm running late. Okay, we'll be back with more. This is 570 News Radio.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
Our inadvertent summer theme this morning, we've been talking to the Weather Network about their summer forecast. We talked about yard sales and a new app called Yardly, which is a big spring-summer thing. We have a summer question coming up on the Flipside in about half an hour. What is the one thing you promised yourself you would do this summer or get done? But before summer, and we're thankful to do it, we're still talking hockey and Rangers hockey. We all know because they are in the Memorial Cup final for Sunday, and live from Kelowna, the host of the Mike Farwell Show and the voice of the Rangers, Mike Farwell. Good morning again, Mike.
Good morning to you, Larry. Great to be here.
What have you been doing? I mean, and I want to find out what the team has been doing, but it's a almost 5 day break.
Yes, it is. And in fact, I intend to take full advantage of that today. Not long after you and I are finished here, I have rented a car and I'm going back. This is very selfish, by the way, so bear with me, but I'm going back to the place that it all started for me 30 years ago. I worked in a small town, got my first full-time radio job not far from where I am here in Kelowna, a place called Salmon Arm, and I'm going to go back and visit and see how much the town has changed in the almost 30 years. I left in 1998, but nonetheless, that's the plan for me today.
Now, do they still have a radio station?
They do. It's no longer an AM station like it was when I was there. It's been converted to FM. It was private ownership, as you can imagine. All those decades ago, I used to walk right past the owner's office when I came into that station way back when. So I'm curious. I'm hoping I can, finagle my way inside and see what the place looks like. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the little trip.
Well, that's cool. And I want to get back to this, but our uncle used to live in Salmon Arm. So when we went to Trail, BC to visit my other family, we would somehow wind around. So I've been in Salmon Arm. Wow, that's cool.
No, it's so cool. And, I always think about something my father was fond of saying, too soon old, too late smart. And for me, it was like I was a young man trying to make his way in this business, and Salmon Arm was far too small a town for me to spend too much time in, right? So I don't think, in fact, I know I didn't take full advantage of the beautiful Shuswap area of British Columbia where Salmon Arm is located. And so I'm going to go back and enjoy all the natural beauty I paid very little attention to when I was just trying to take another step up the radio ladder.
There you go. Sounds like a great day. We were conjecturing yesterday that maybe the Rangers, because they have 4 full days and a good part of the day Sunday before they play again, that they take a day that's not hockey. I wonder if they are doing that or did that.
They did that yesterday, and They will do that again today. While they do have ice time available, they will not be using it today. So yesterday, I know there's a really interesting, I mean, this is Kelowna, right along Okanagan Lake. It's a beautiful part of the world, as many would know and understand. And they have this interesting, I guess the best way I could describe it is a floating sauna. It's kind of on a dock, and the sauna goes out into the lake. And so you can be in the sauna, and then you can jump in the lake and you get back in the sauna. And the players took advantage of that opportunity yesterday. I'm not sure what their off day activity is for today, but they'll spend the time together, enjoy the outdoors. They've been doing some hiking too when they don't have games. And then we'll get back to work, so to speak, in the more serious preparations on the ice, practicing, etc. Tomorrow, that's Friday. I'm getting my days a little mixed up here.
Right.
On Friday, back on the ice, back into practice mode, and getting ready for that big game on Sunday.
I'm kind of a fan of this because at this point of the season, for any high level athlete, you're probably playing hurt in some way. The bumps, bruises, the aches. And I thought, boy, if the rest is going to benefit anybody, it would benefit the Rangers, you know.
Yes, and I would say that right through these playoffs. If it's one thing that we can say about the Kitchener Rangers, and, you know, my broadcast partner and I have been talking about it quite a bit. It feels like forever ago that we played the Saguenéens Spirit to start the playoffs, which began in late March, for crying out loud. Like, it's hard to wrap your head around it. It feels like forever ago. But the one thing the Rangers have been, along with successful, of course, in these playoffs, is efficient, right? It was a sweep over Saginaw, then a couple of 5-game series with Sault Ste. Marie and Windsor, and then another sweep of the Barrie Colts. So every time the Rangers finished a series, they had time off before the next one began, which allows you to rest maybe those nagging injuries. That includes 10 days after finishing off the Barrie Colts in a sweep before they had to play a game out here in Kelowna. So even this 5-day break between games here at the Memorial Cup is a good one. I think most importantly, of course, for Christian Humphreys. Got a lot of emails and questions asked about him after he was on the receiving end of a pretty ugly play, to be honest, late in that game versus Chicoutimi on Tuesday night, when a Chicoutimi player used his skate to stomp on the foot of Christian Humphreys. So I can tell you this much. He is banged up. He's also getting treatment from some of the best training staff in the game. And I am optimistic that we will see Christian Humphreys on the ice come Sunday.
You read my mind. My next question, and when I watched that, the small saving grace that I saw, even though he was really hurting and he made his way to the bench and he was sitting on the bench, when he got back to go into the dressing room and the trainer's room, he was walking on his own. It was uncomfortable and he looked hurt, but at least he was walking on his own. And I thought, that's a good sign.
Yes, I agree when I saw that as well. And then after the game, when he was into his civvy clothes, he was more normal that way. And then the next morning as well. So as far as I could tell, it doesn't look like anything where there were severe cuts to the ankle or the foot of Christian Humphreys at all. Definitely some bruising there. And as I said, I know he's getting the very careful attention of a very highly skilled training staff, and they're doing everything within their power and abilities to make sure that he's ready to go for that big game on Sunday.
Well, we had on the show yesterday, luckily enough, to talk to Dan Liebold. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, when I asked him, because he's got, 3 tournament runs now and just been to so many games and has such a history in Major Junior, I said, what about how do you compare these guys to other teams? And he said, this group is something special. They got something special. I thought that was a very interesting observation. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would have to agree wholeheartedly with that. And one of the comparisons I think that is really noteworthy, going back to the 2003 team that won it all, and that would have been the first one that Dan Liebold was part of when he came over and joined Kitchener from Sudbury in 1995. So 2003, the Rangers compete in and win the Memorial Cup in Quebec. Derek Roy was the captain of that team, but there was a young Mike Richards on that 2003 team as well. And Mike Richards emerged obviously as a real leader for this Rangers hockey club, one of the best junior players that you'll ever see come through the Ontario Hockey League. was a captain himself, of course, afterwards. And for my money, might be a guy that sees his name next raised to the new level of legacy at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. And I bring up Mike Richards because of, he's just so highly regarded amongst Rangers fans. And this season, when the Kitchener Rangers made the big trade that people are still talking about, even out here at the Memorial Cup this week, to get Sam O'Reilly from the London Knights, there have been comparisons made, Larry, to Mike Richards with what Sam O'Reilly has brought to this Rangers team. And those are very lofty comparisons, make no mistake about it. But yeah. I have a difficult time dismissing them just because of the leadership, the preparation, just the way that Sam O'Reilly carries himself. He's a professional in a 19-year-old's body. I think we'll see him in the National Hockey League next year. And that alone, that kind of presence, I think really harkens back to that 03 team. And if you're a Rangers fan anxious about Sunday, kind of like I am, look to a guy like Sam O'Reilly as that calming force that just might be the secret ingredient the Rangers need to emerge a winner.
We are focused, and rightly so, on Sunday's final, the winner takes it all Memorial Cup final on Sunday, but there's a game before that, and it's for the chance to play the Kitchener Rangers, and that's tomorrow night?
It is indeed tomorrow night, and you look at the way the Kitchener Rangers have gone through their OHL playoffs and the 3-0 record in the round robin of this Memorial Cup tournament, and you'd make the joke, what does the winner get? I mean, these two teams are going to play one another for the right to play a team that's dominated at this tournament so far. But yes, thanks to their win last night, the Everett Silvertips will be the home team for what that's worth. So you get the shorter change for 2 periods. It's the last change, by the way, and the shorter bench for those 2 periods there. But either way, the Silvertips will be the home team. Chicoutimi, the Saguenéens, will be the visiting team. And the winner of that game on Friday night will play the Kitchener Rangers on Sunday afternoon here and early evening back home.
I'm blanking on the name of the villain of the other game when Humphreys got stomped on. Of course, he's out for the rest of the tournament. Is that somebody Chicoutimi misses? Was he also a valuable member that they're going to notice he's not in the lineup tomorrow?
I don't know that they would miss him a ton. Jordan Tourigny is the player's name. He's an overage player. So there is something to be said for the veteran presence. And, the team was quick to point out that he had not been on the wrong side of the hockey law, if you will, in the past. This transgression was out of character for Tourigny. But as an observer of that game on Tuesday night, I would say that, again, you've got a veteran presence, which is always important, especially in a tournament like this. But Tourigny struck me more as that kind of physical, in-your-face, pesky kind of presence, as opposed to a guy that could light you up for 3 or 4 goals if the time was right. So I don't know that they would, I'll put it this way, I don't know that Chicoutimi would miss Tourigny as much as the Kitchener Rangers would miss Christian Humphreys if he couldn't play on Sunday.
That's well put. Do we have a favorite? Do you have a not a favorite, a preference as to who we'd like to see win tomorrow night?
That's a really good question. I mean, for the storyline, wouldn't it be interesting if the Rangers had to play Chicoutimi again and just kind of bring this subplot into the championship? That said, I thought the Rangers maybe got a little bit distracted after that happened in the game on Tuesday night. And, they were up by 2, but Chicoutimi would score to make it a 1-goal game. And we were kind of holding our breath until the end. So maybe I could do without the distraction as a fan of this hockey club, as well as the broadcaster. And I think maybe just from a pure hockey standpoint, this Everett team, Larry, is something else. They really are a strong hockey club. They're a well-coached hockey club. So I might just default to that and say, hey, if we want to see the very best in junior hockey and we want to see if our Kitchener Rangers can beat the other best team in Canada right now at this level, let's make it Kitchener and Everett on Sunday. I would be okay with that.
I'd be okay with that too. What time is that game on Sunday?
Well, let me let you in on a little secret here. It's a bit of a rumor running around the rink here. Now, the CHL is yet to confirm, but I just want to put this in the back of your mind. Okay. The game is scheduled for 4 p.m. Pacific time, so 7 o'clock, a nice primetime evening game back home. However, there is this NHL series that continues between the Carolina Hurricanes and some such nonsense. I forget the other team that they're playing, Larry.
Right.
And I forget deliberately because I refuse to mention that team on this show.
Yeah. Okay, me too.
But rumor has it that if there is a game 6 in that series, our game will get bumped to 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I talked directly to the CHL last night when I was at the game. I was watching the Kelowna Everett game last night, and they could not confirm at this point. So we're going to continue with 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Sunday back in Ontario, but subject to change at this point.
And Dan Liebold said that you fly out about 3 hours after the end of the game.
Oh, Larry, we have a former entrant in this tournament to thank for that. I will not name names to protect the innocent. However, the short answer, yes, because some years ago, a team, upon elimination from the tournament, decided to tie one on and left a little bit of a mark on the town that was hosting, and the league wants no such liability on their backs. So, yes, and that goes for tomorrow night's semifinal game. There will be a plane on standby. If Everett loses, they brought their bus. If Chicoutimi loses, they have to fly home. They have to get out of Kelowna the moment their tournament ends.
Get out of town. Get out of here. Wow.
That's the way it works. Yes, sir.
Well, and I just quickly, your report this morning about the coaches and the hair change. I love that little bit of color, if you will, adding to the sports stuff.
Well played, sir, on the color, yes, because it is a different color hair for Rangers goaltending and video coach Jordan DeCourt and their associate coach, Jeff Kurzakis. And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed while being out here, Larry, the chance to share some of the stories from around the tournament, both on and off the ice with our listeners and fans of this game back home. So I'll just shamelessly promote the website, kitchener.citynews.ca. If you didn't hear the story this morning or you didn't yet read it online, you can find it there, kitchener.citynews.ca. And this story in particular, it's just kind of funny the way it came together. You would relate just as well. I was at the rally that the city of Kitchener held for the Rangers the day before we left for Kelowna. And I was standing up near the stage and I watched the Rangers get introduced. And Jordan DeCourt strikes a pretty imposing figure. He's a tall guy, but he's a young guy. And he had this shock of what I thought initially was bleach blonde hair. And so when he got closer to me, I nudged him and said, "What in HE double hockey sticks has happened to you?" And you might know, like, players in sports, especially at this level, will often do something team wise to mark a playoff run. The Rangers, for example, got buzz cuts this year. So I thought maybe it was some superstition. Anyway, it turns out that it was a deal made 3 years ago between Jordan DeCourt and associate coach Jeff Kurzakis. When this team won an OHL championship, the younger DeCourt would dye his hair gray in support of the older Kurzakis, who had a little bit of gray in his hair. And in return, Kurzakis would dye the gray out of his hair and go all black. They look ridiculous, in my opinion, but it's a fun little story that's around or off the ice, around the game. And I will just quickly shamelessly promote another one this afternoon. The Junior Hockey Junkies are here, Larry. They've been at every one of these Memorial Cups since 1999. And I talked to Santa and Bubba. Yes, Santa. Okay. And you'll hear that story this afternoon and read it at kitchener.citynews.ca.
That sounds great. And that hair story, these are team building things that I love, that I think contribute to what happens on ice. All these kind of team building things that they have off ice, I think they're fantastic. So, and Mike Farwell, I'm going to let you get on the road. Get back to Salmon Arm from Kelowna and enjoy your day in the town. And I guess I'm on Monday as you're flying back, so maybe we'll get a chance to talk then. But either way, I hope we talk soon. Thank you.
I look forward to it. And as always, Larry, thank you for being there in my absence. Really appreciate you.
All right. My guest on the Mike Farwell Show, Mike Farwell, live from Kelowna. And tomorrow night, it's Everett and Chicoutimi in semifinal. And the winner of that game, of course, playing the Kitchener Rangers on Sunday, either at 7 o'clock our time or perhaps 9 o'clock our time, as Mike pointed out. We'll keep an eye on that. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell, and if you've been listening, Mike was just our guest live from Kelowna, and our suspicions were correct. The Rangers took a day off from hockey, as a matter of fact, taking another one today. So did you hear Mike talking about that floating spa? You're in a kind of a spa, jacuzzi kind of situation and it floats out to the middle of the lake, and then you get out of the spa and jump in the lake and get back in the spa, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds fantastic. Fantastic. So the team is taking actually 2 days away from hockey and not on the ice at all. And then tomorrow and Saturday they will take ice time and practice, and I imagine some sort of light workout Sunday morning, and then get ready for the big game, which, as Mike kind of broke the news for us, is scheduled for 4 p.m. Their time, so 7 o'clock our time would be great. But if there is another game in the Carolina other team NHL semifinal, then the Memorial Cup will get pushed back to 6 o'clock their time, 9 o'clock our time, which is kind of when the games have been so far. So we shall see. That's really interesting. And Mike today, just so you know, if you missed it, from Kelowna, he's taking a day off. He's renting a car and traveling up to Salmon Arm, where he got his start in radio at a radio station in Salmon Arm, and he's going to go visit there and try and visit the radio station and see if anybody remembers when Mike Farwell graced those hallways in Salmon Arm, British Columbia, a town I've actually been in as a kid. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I just remember that we were there. So it is a beautiful part of the country. Next on the program, it's the Flipside question. We ask a question, flip it over to you. What do you think? And the question is, what's the one thing you promised yourself you will do this summer, or you will get done? Think about it. Call the program when we return at 570 News and Rogers TV.
Here's special guest host, Larry Fedoruk.
The Flipside, where we come up with a question, generally more of a fun, social, pop culture, whatever, just a fun question, and ask you to chime in on it. Today's question, as I said, full disclosure, we think these up, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So we shall see. The question we come up with today is, what is the one thing you promised yourself you will do this summer or get done this summer? Is it a vacation? Is it a day trip? I'm going to go see that spot or visit these people. Is it a project, a yard project, a house project? Is it something fun, or is it work, or is it self-improvement? This year I promised myself that I'm going to get in shape so that at least by the end of the summer I can look good in a bikini. Not judging. I'm just saying, hey, if that's your thing, you can you can look good in a bikini. Sounds good. What is it exactly? I know there's a couple of things, my brother and I always talk about, we were going to do that this summer. We were going to do that last summer. Well, let's do that this summer. I'm like, yeah, okay. So that was kind of the inspiration for the question. What is the one thing that you promised yourself you would do this summer? Or, that you want to do this summer? Because, it's nice to have summer plans or even summer resolutions, if you will. Instead of New Year's resolutions, which I don't make, I often do make summer resolutions, like this summer is the summer that I'm finally going to do or finally going to get done. And so that's my question to you. What is the one thing you promised yourself that you would do this summer or you would get done this summer? 519-570-2545, 1-800-570-5715, star 570 on your cell. It's up to you. The flip side turns it all over to you. I mentioned earlier, I sort of promised, and shouldn't be a summer thing, but I promised myself another purge of the storage unit here where I live. which I've done twice already, and somehow I got stuff in there piled up. When we were talking about yard sales earlier, maybe that's one of the things. I'm going to have a yard sale this year and get rid of some of this junk in the basement, attic, garage kind of thing. Just put it out there. One of the reasons I have a storage room full of stuff is I'm a big yard sale guy. Flea markets, garage sales, estate sales. I love them. And I've never left one without buying something. Sometimes it's something I need. Oh, look, closet shoe racks for $1. I'm going to take, but more often than not, it's a knickknack, and it's something shiny, and I get distracted, and it's shiny and nice, and I'm like, how much is that? And it's a couple of bucks, and I take it. And so a couple of years ago, it's maybe even more now because it was during COVID, I redid my home office. And where I had a lot of books and things like that was pretty willy-nilly, barely held together. And I said, I know it's only your home office. Nobody really sees it but you, but why don't you just improve the area? So what I did was I got rid, I just redid the whole thing without getting into a long story. And that left me with a lot of leftover stuff. Mostly stuff that I had on display, little stuff that was fun for me to look at that I'd bought at garage sales over the years and yard sales. And so when I redid the office, I had a lot of that stuff, which I couldn't throw out. And I don't really live in a building. There's no place to really put it. Sometimes in the recycling room, there will be stuff there that's just lying on the floor with the sign "free to a good home." I just love that line. Free to a good home. Oh, look, it's an old cappuccino maker. Yeah, okay. And so I could do that, but it was just too much stuff. I didn't want to cover the floor of the recycling room. I can't just go out in the front and have a yard sale. Well, of course, I don't know why I couldn't do that. That'd be a bit of a hassle to get it all out there, but I could do that, I guess. But so I packed up the storage room again. Next thing you know, I got a storage room full of stuff because it's not on a display and I'm not throwing it out. So what the heck am I doing? So I kind of got another purge in line. That doesn't sound very exciting, huh? For summer. I always thought too that I worked for many years doing a talk show in the Niagara region, and our station was specifically in St. Catharines. And I left there at the end of 2019, and I've never been back. And not because I'm bitter. I'm bitter about being let go, but I wasn't let go by the people at the station or any of my friends. I was let go by the corporate overlord. So I haven't gone back. And then it just one thing turned to another, and I haven't gone back. So I was thinking maybe a trip to Niagara would be something. I always say I'm going to go back this summer and drive by the old place, because I see pictures of people post online from that radio station of them in the studio, and I'm like, oh, it's still the same studio. Oh, I miss it. Very nostalgic. Might do that. What's your plan? What's the one thing you want to get done this summer, or that you promised yourself you would do? That's our Flipside question. Here's Frank. Frank, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Larry. It is morning.
Good morning.
Yes. As you know, I was on Monday there when I called in. Kind of told you I was a bit of a Bruce County boy. Well,
yes, sir.
This summer I want to go back to where I graduated high school at Saguenéens District Secondary School. Go see. It's kind of like what Mike's doing in Salmon Arm. Go there 30 years later, see what's changed, whatever. But also, the band called Something's Always Flying does their. They go kind of on a tour, and I believe this year they're stopping up in Southampton and as well as Port Elgin. Mm-hmm. So the Port Elgin portion of that, I plan on making a nice little few days out of that. I got such a heavy work schedule and event schedule planned and remaining connected to Waterloo region. But that would be something nice, to kind of the cherry on top, right? To do and to remain connected and maybe perhaps see some of my extended family up there. They are scattered about in places like Burgoyne and I grew up in Tara, maybe go through there, take a side trip. Yeah, it sounds like a perfect opportunity to rent a car, get in there and buzz up there, and then catch some awesome music with some new friends with the band called Something's Always Flying, which played at the Marshall Legion. In fact, I think they're playing in Montana's on June 4th. Great.
Wow.
Montana's at Ottawa and Homer Watson. Yeah, like I said, this band travels really well. It travels well with other bands, and I can't say enough about them. They're really great. They're just great people. Like everybody else I'm meeting, there's good. There really is good in everybody, but yeah, some of these people are just extraordinary people, and you never know. And we exchange stories and have so many things in common and so on. Yeah, and just like you, Larry, it was really a pleasure to be able to bring up some of your childhood memories and being out on the prairies. I was glad to do that. I'm glad that you were touched by that. It kind of touches me that you're touched by that, and I'm so happy to do that. But thanks, and really thank you for covering over for this for the show this week, and all the best. I hope to remain in touch with you.
Me as well, and we certainly can easily do that on Facebook first and foremost, so that's always easy. But I appreciate you calling the show, Frank. Hope you get your trip done. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for the call, Frank. Flipside question, what's the one thing you want to do this summer, you promised yourself you would do this summer, or that you would get done? Here's JB. JB, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Larry. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Couple things I want to get done. I want to get some camping in for sure, and I want to spend some time with my best friend from college, who actually was one of your old producers in St. Catharines.
Okay.
Pat Smolarek. He's a real good friend of mine, and yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. With all respect, I probably had 4 or 5 producers over the years there. Sure. And I love them all, but Patrick was the man. He was the guy.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I mean, he left. I think 4 or 5 years ago now. He's driving transit for Niagara Transit, and he couldn't be happier.
Yeah, Patrick and I still, I don't say regularly, but at least on each other's birthday, we'll exchange calls. So we stay in touch at least twice a year. I managed to talk and stay caught up with Patrick's life, because just a solid guy, man.
Absolutely,
a good guy.
Yeah. Well, you've got, I guess you'll be talking to him in a couple of weeks then. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Thank you, JB, and all the best. Man. All right, man. Patrick Smolarek. Let's look at that, Patrick. You get mentioned on 570 News Radio in Kitchener. That's cool. And I isn't that funny too? Because JB said, I guess I'll be talking to him in a couple of weeks. I always think Patrick's birthday is in January. So, and I've done this every year to him, and it comes up on Facebook because we're guys, and guys don't really keep track of the birthdays in the same way that I think women do with each other. Certainly family, but just acquaintances. I've known friends of mine for 20, 30 years where it's like, and they'll say, it's my birthday coming up. And I'm like, oh yeah, is it? And every time I see Patrick's birthday come up on Facebook, I give him a call and I'm like, is this real? Like, are you just putting this birthday on Facebook because you're really born in January? And he goes, no, this has always been my birthday. And I'm like, okay. I always it's the weirdest thing. So anyway, sorry. I'm just nostalgic and reminiscing about those days. Thanks for the call, JB. So what is the one thing that you want to do? That's our Flipside question. What is the one thing you promised yourself you would do this summer, or that you would get done? All right. Let us know on the flip side. We'll be back with more of your calls here on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell, and our Flipside question is, what is the one thing you promised yourself you would do this summer, or that you want to get done? Here's George. George, go ahead. You're on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. What would I like to do this summer? I really wanted to do this for a long time. Is on June 21st, the equinox, the beginning of summer. I'd like to drive up to that Port Elgin, Southampton area of Ontario and watch the sun go down. I've heard from others that that sun goes down somewhere around 10 p.m. at night. I love to see that. I'm hoping to do it this year up in that area of the Bruce, Huron area. I love to experience that, the equinox, the longest day of the year.
Right. Wow, that sounds like a plan. Yeah, hope you get it done, George.
I hope so, too. I hope my stuff, so that's what we're hoping we're going to do this summer.
Well, may I say, do it. Thank you, George, for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, get it done. Get her done. Yeah. Hey, JB just called moments ago. If you heard the call, if you didn't, he's going to go to Niagara and hang out with an old buddy of his. And he says to me, he used to be one of your producers when you worked in Niagara, when you had a talk show in Niagara. And I had 3 or 4. And I says, which one? And he goes, Patrick Smolarek, which is the last producer I had, and the one I had the longest, and turned out to be like the best, like, you know, one of the best. And so we've stayed in touch off and on in the last 6-7 years since I was full-time employed as a talk show host. And I just thought of this story, and I don't even know if it's funny or relatable, but I'm going to share it. I don't know if you've ever had anything similar. So my friend Patrick Smolarek and my coworker, he's at this point in his life, he's a workout guy. He's running in Ironman things, and he's like, so he's staying fit, and he's going to the gym all the time. And he goes to this gym that is like a sister gym to where he has a membership or something, or whatever it is. It's just another I can't remember. But the deal was you couldn't just show your membership and move in when you were at this other gym. You had to get a guest card. And the guest card, when you walked up to the desk where the woman was who signed out the guest card, she was very specific about it. You give your last name and then your first name, and then you get the card. What's your name? Patrick. Sorry, I need your last name first. So he, by this time, knows the routine, and he wants to comply, wants to be nice. So he walks up to the front desk, and she says, name, please. And he says, Small Eric. And she turns around and leaves. And he's like, hold on a second. That's my last name. My first name is Patrick Small Eric. But he said Small Eric. And she comes back with a guest pass that says Eric Small. 1, 2, 3, anything? I don't know. I guess you have to know the guy. Like I said, maybe this story is not relatable. I'm sorry if it's not, but it was just in my mind. So I've called him Eric Small, and his name was Eric Small to me for years. I was like, hey, Eric Small, how's it going, man? And turns out there was a guy in some of those Ironman competitions we looked him up. His name was actually Eric Small, not in the region or not in Ontario. He was somewhere else in the world. But there was a guy competing out there as Eric Small, and there actually was an Eric Small. I imagine there's several in the world. But Small Eric, here's your pass, Mr. Small, Eric Small. Just found that story when JB called about the one thing he's going to hang around with Eric Small. Way to go, JB. Go. I did not know about that Port Elgin sunset on June 21st. That is the what they call the longest day of the year. And it's really, I don't even know if it's June 21st this year. I should look that up. It is the summer solstice, which is usually right around that time. Sometimes it could be the 20th, I think, or the 21st. So usually it's the 21st. And that's, as much as I notice and very sensitive, I don't know if I have the light sensitivity disorder or the seasonal affect disorder, whatever it is. I think all of us, after a longer winter, we get a little, but for me, and I've often said this, when it gets light too late, I actually don't like it. I would love it if it got dark at 8 o'clock, 12 months a year. That would be ideal for me. Now, I know I'm asking a lot of the Earth revolving around the sun at this point. So I'm asking for a change in the revolution. So If you could get that done, astrophysicists. No, but seriously, that's what it is, and that's just the way it is. That's the way it's going to be for this third rock from the sun. Is we're going to be longer in this part of the world. We're going to have longer daylight, but this time and shorter days so that's why. And I always thought if we go one time system instead of flipping clocks twice a year, I would go with regular time. I wouldn't go with daylight saving time 24. Or I say 24 again. I wouldn't go with daylight saving time 12 months a year. I would go with it the other time. I would go with the regular time because I don't know that I need light at 10 o'clock at night. And I don't know that I need dark at 5 in the winter. Although in my preference, I guess it would be dark at 5 o'clock in the winter. But it would be, you trade off for stuff in the morning. I don't know. I don't know. Nobody's going to do it. The last thing that happened was it 02, 03? Was it that long ago? Where George W. Bush got the dates moved. So we fall back later and we fall back later, and we spring forward earlier. Oh, jeez. I'm obviously the wrong guy to ask about time. I can't even figure out earlier and later. Oh my goodness. But George W. Bush, actually, that's one of the things he did that I like is he said we're going to switch the dates, and we all agreed, because that's the other thing too. We don't want to be Saskatchewan, so to speak, where Saskatchewan doesn't change clocks, everybody else does. You can't, just because of the amount of just commerce alone that goes on the eastern seaboard, you can't just be one town or one province even that says, okay, this is the times. Well, if you're gonna change and we don't switch clocks anymore, you got to get everybody to agree. Most of Canada and most of the United States, and that's why I don't know that it'll ever get done. But some people love it. Some people love the late daylight. And that would be an interesting trip. I hope you get it done, George, up to Port Elgin to see that sunset. Apparently, very beautiful, and it's a place people go to be on the longest day of the year. Sounds cool. All right, that's been our flip side. Thank you for your input on what you want to get done this summer and things you promised yourself you would do. From here on in, it's completely up to you, because it's our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour between noon and 1 every day, where it's up to you. What do you want to talk about? As always, I have some suggestions. We'll get through those and then get to your calls next on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room.
Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell this week, and now held over till Monday. So I'm back Monday as Mike travels back after the game on Sunday night, and then packing up and leaving and flying across the country and all that kind of stuff. So, hey, let Mike rest a little bit. So I'll be here Monday as well. But in the meantime, here today on a Thursday, it is the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, where we throw the phone lines open absolutely to you and whatever you want to talk about. 519-570-2545, 1-800-570-5715 is toll free, and star 570 on your cell. Jersey Bill. Always great to hear from Jersey Bill. Bill, go ahead. You're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm now 75 in one day. So I made it to the quarter of a century mark.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and just keeping with your theme of the last hour, I keep wanting to extend my driveway, which is like a 1.5, at least to accommodate our second car, so the other car has free access to the garage. But every year I say I'm going to do it, and I never wind up doing it. But maybe this year is different now that I've hit the 75-year mark, and I realize I may not have too many more years to do that kind of thing. I was just wondering that I missed the first part of the thing with Mike. I guess the unfortunate incident with Humphreys and the player from the Quebec team was brought up. To me, it really did sort of look like it was you almost could categorize that as an assault. And I certainly feel bad for Humphreys, but when somebody does that, whatever his motivation is, he has to live with that for the rest of his life, especially if he would wind up injuring a person long term, or maybe even creating career-ending injury.
Right.
It just seems sometimes we take the sports thing much too seriously in that sense. The players do, and I even think in terms of the way we line up for our nations, almost like you take this World Cup and even the Olympic sports. Sometimes when it's a team sport, it's almost like it's an arm of the military, and it was the case when the Soviets were represented by the Red Army team in ice hockey, and I think that really has some really bad repercussions. I certainly hope that that sport could pull away from that sort of thing.
Well, and they always say, politics in the Olympics, politics are in the World Cup. Well, if you don't want politics, then why are you playing and competing based on political geographical units called nations?
Yeah, and when you think about it, how many, when it comes to the actual professional teams, whether it's ice hockey or soccer or even baseball now, these teams we root for are also international. Why not just get the best teams in the world with the players regardless of where they came from, and do an international or do a world competition in that way with the actual teams that have been put together for the purpose of winning a championship. But of course, we seem to be tied to this idea of nationalism, and as I like to say, nationalism is the worst of all isms and has led to some really horrible things in the world.
Yeah, I'm with you. We're on the same page here, Jersey Bill, for sure on that. I totally agree.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you around till Monday, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon again.
You bet. Happy belated birthday, day after, Jersey Bill. Way to go. And on the conversation with Mike Farwell, Christian Humphreys, first of all, the team has 2 days, yesterday and today, where they're not on the ice at all. They're taking advantage of the beautiful Okanagan Valley, Okanagan Lake, and Kelowna, British Columbia. And Mike said that Christian Humphrey is walking around doing stuff, looking good. And Mike Farwell said he has no doubt that Christian Humphreys will be in the lineup on Sunday. And that stomp, wow. I mean, they made a big deal, and I keep forgetting the Chicoutimi player's name. I'm sorry, and not that I want to remember the name of the villain, but they made a big deal of saying that he's never really, this is not his MO, and that it was just the heat of the game. And I know they're trying to turn that around because that could affect a young player's career. And maybe it was that. But then, too, one stomp is the heat of the game. It's bad. It's a penalty, kicking. It's the heat of the game. 3, that's what happened. 3. Why it took so long to review it, I don't know. I think maybe because they were trying to decide if it was a misconduct or a match penalty. Maybe that's why it took so long to review. But it ended up being a match, which is out of the game and out of the tournament. So, but Humphreys should be okay. Here's Kyle. Kyle, go ahead. You're on 570 News Radio.
First of all, I got to correct you and Mike. The game is against the Carolina Hurricanes and the Montreal Canadiens. You guys forgot to say the other team there, so I just thought I'd throw that in just in case anybody did not know.
Okay.
And second of all, you guys were talking about, I remember yesterday we brought up Dunkin' Donuts, and I was on the bike, so I was handing out flyers for my business. So I didn't really catch some of it there. And maybe nobody touched on it, but I'm kind of glad, or I should say, a little bit happy that Dunkin' Donuts is coming back. From what I understand is they're kind of going back to the old model that Tim Hortons used to be, and that was just coffee and donuts. And I haven't gone to Tim Hortons for probably 7 or 8 years now. I either make my coffee at home or I actually go to A&W, which I prefer their type of coffee that they have. And the nice part about where I live in a small town, anyways, in Listowel, Ontario, the A&W in my town knows exactly who I am, and they know exactly what I order. So I show up to the window, and he goes and says, pull on up. He knows that he's like double with milk. Yep. And he already has my order ready and stuff. And I kind of miss that because Tim Hortons used to be that. I remember back when I was in high school, it was the same ladies that always worked there. They knew exactly who you were. They'd always say hello. You'd have a conversation with them. And that's kind of gone away. And I'm hoping that Dunkin' Donuts, even though it's an American-owned company, that they kind of bring back that kind of personality to it, because I think that's the main thing that's missing. And honestly, the Tim Hortons coffee has kind of gone downhill, and their donuts have kind of shrunken down and all that stuff. And I think they're doing way too much. Like, you show up to Tim Hortons now, and they got so many menu items on the thing. You're kind of lost when you get up in there, right? So I just wanted to say that there, Larry. But I understand the whole Canadian American thing, but Tim Hortons isn't really Canadian anymore. It's owned by an American company, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that there, Larry. But that's my 2 cents on Dunkin' Donuts. I'm kind of glad that they're coming. I'd like to try them out and see how they are. And just going back to the old models of just showing up and getting your donut and coffee and leaving, right? So thanks, Larry. Have a great day, my friend.
You bet, Kyle. Always appreciate the call. It's a great call. I agree on most of your points. And yesterday we made the point that, with this Canadian food business venture that's bringing Dunkin' Donuts in right now, and in his Canadian operation that'll be franchising them out across Canada, you could make an argument that Dunkin' Donuts in Canada would be more Canadian than Tim Hortons is right now. And as our marketing expert said yesterday, Tim Hortons basically has a great Canadian origin story, and that's it. It's like Hudson's Bay wasn't Canadian for years, and so if that's going to be our mark, is like we want to buy Canadian, there's an argument. And it's true. I'm sometimes overwhelmed by the menu. And people have actually said that Tim Hortons has made some missteps in some of their menu offerings. And it's just too much. Just what about a coffee and a donut? And their donuts, and I probably shouldn't say this because I don't know specifically, but I'm pretty sure most of the donuts are no longer baked in a Tim Hortons, which I understand when you have the smaller locations and the kiosks, you can't have a big bakery oven there. But often they get shipped these frozen donuts, and it's kind of a reheated thing, and they're still good. Don't get me wrong, still delicious, but it's not like it was, I guess, is what we're saying. Happy Phil is joining the show today. Good morning, Phil. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Larry. I got a quick question for you and then a comment. First of all, if you don't mind me asking, did you work in St. Catharines about 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, yes, I actually left in end of 2019 is when the company did a downsize, and I was a part of that.
One of your coworkers, I won't say their last name, but I'll say their first name, Gina. We were at their house last night, and your name came up, and we were both speaking accolades of how when people call in to you on the radio, your knowledge, your depth of knowledge is amazing. You've got a comment. You've always got side notes and anecdotes to throw in. So kudos to you, sir. You are one of the great radio talk people because
oh my gosh,
the way you Q&A with people, but you've always got knowledge to throw in there after the fact as well.
I'm making it up as I go along. I'm kidding, but thank you for that. And I just want to be clear. You said Gina.
Gina.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Gina. Yeah.
And her husband, I'll just say this without giving it away. What could I say? Blue Suede Shoes, Heartbreak Hotel.
Viva Las Vegas. Yes.
Okay.
You got it. Now, I got to commend you. The other day, Monday, I believe it was, there was some problems technically, and you walked through that. Anybody who's worked in broadcast and had to deal with live technical problems, it's amazing the calm scramble that happens behind the scenes as you hold it together. Now, a few minutes ago, you're talking about Eric Small, and it reminded me of something. I'm 62, soon to be 63. Back when I was young in school and high school, everybody had nicknames. Athletes had nicknames. But a lot of those nicknames were not very flattering, but when you got hit with one, you had to stick with it. And nowadays, if people use nicknames in the workplace, I couldn't imagine HR how they would deal with it because I had a couple of different nicknames, and one of them, my last name is Malto, so people called me Moto, and that got transferred into Quasimodo and then just Quasi, which is kind of a unique nickname. We're playing rugby one time, and competitive rugby at an officer tournament. The other team, the other guy's nickname was also Quasi. So both teams are calling out Quasi. We're looking like, who comes up with these nicknames? And how do you get somebody with the exact same nickname and you're playing competitive sport against them?
That's funny. Oh, my goodness. Quasi. Okay. Well, I'll try not to call you that.
Okay. Have a great day, Larry. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Phil. Great call. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Gina. All right. Hey, Gina. A boss, not just somebody I worked with, and one of my great ones. Because I had a few, because I was there a long time. And the Eric Small story, really quick, was I called him Eric Small, but it wasn't really a nickname. And plus, we didn't hang out together a lot outside of work, but we were buddies at work. We were close at work, so we could get away with it with each other. You know what I mean? It's not that I would just, because you can't use nicknames at the workplace. And when Small Eric, that was his last name, if you missed the story, he had to give his name somewhere to get a guest pass, and the woman insisted you give your last name first and then your first name last. And his name was Patrick Small Eric. So he walked up and he said, Small Eric, and she just left without hearing his name, Patrick, and came back with a guest pass name that said Eric Small. That's still the story that amuses the heck out of me, and I hope you get a kick out of it too. And he became Eric Small, kind of as a side joke. It wasn't a nickname. But I had a manager who used to call me Uncle Larry, and because I was a little bit older than the other staff, and I hated that. And he was a manager, and I think I could have reported him, because I thought, it's well, how bad is Uncle Larry? And I'm like, yeah, but it kind of puts me in. I'm not one of the kids. I'm not one of the folks around. I'm the Uncle Larry. I just thought it was inappropriate, and it personally, usually I don't care. I'm pretty resilient. These things roll off me. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Call me what you want to call me. But for some reason, that kind of bothered me. Maybe because it was at that time I was becoming age sensitive. Now I'm not anymore. But maybe I don't know why. I don't want to. I'm not a psychologist. I was just trying to be a psychologist about myself. And I was why does this bother you, Uncle Larry? And I think I had a case that if I went to HR and said, yeah, the manager's calling me Uncle Larry amongst everybody, and that's my name now, in front of other people and stuff, I'm sure they would go, that's not appropriate. And he was fired before I was. So there you go, problem solved, right? And it's funny when you work in corporate downsizing, when you work with a company that's huge, and and when somebody gets downsized, you're like, wow, okay, well, I made it. And then there's another one, and you go, oh, she's gone. It's unbelievable. Oh, I guess I made it. And you start to think, hey, well, yeah, because they'll never get rid of me. And then there's like, yeah, could you come upstairs, please, to the boardroom? I want to talk to you for a second. And you're like, what? This isn't the Employee of the Month award, is it? Oh, no, it's not. It's not. Oh, well. But there's that's two little Niagara things that came up in the show today. Thanks for those calls from JB and Phil. I certainly appreciate that. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Whatever you'd like to talk about, let me remind you again, it's 519-570-2545, 1-800-570-5715 is toll free, or star 570 on your cell. Back in a moment on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Your opinions
and his ears.
Call now, 519-570-2545, 1-800-570-5715, and star 570.
The 12 o'clock Talkback Hour continues
on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
Whatever you'd like to talk about, it's Larry Fedoruk in from Mike Farwell, 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Give us a call. Ever been part of a protest? Have you ever gone to a protest? Have you ever made a sign? Have you ever carried a sign? Gone to a protest? Just thinking about all the protesters that made the signs and took the time to go to Queen's Park today from the Waterloo region. They expected up to 5,000. I'm not sure the numbers they got, but it was the Waterloo Region Health Coalition that amassed this morning, grabbed the GO train to Queen's Park to protest against Doug Ford, stop Ford's privatization train wreck. They had an official brand to it. That's why I'm kind of stumbling through it. It's Stop Ford's Privatization Train Wreck, and it's about health privatization, which he's leaning to, and we've already got in a lot of areas. So it's like, hold on, is this where you're taking us? Because I don't think so. Privatized healthcare, I don't think so. As flawed as our system is, and system needs funding and things like that, there's flaws in the system. We get it, but it's a pretty good system. I know people have serious health issues and go and have surgeries in hospitals for days, and they walk out of that hospital owing not a penny. Where in the United States, you remortgaged your house twice, and you're still not going to pay for your huge hospital bill or whatever. People can't afford the insurance, things like that. It's for the flaws. We have a pretty good system, and privatization is not the way to go. And so, way to go, the coalition from Waterloo to get down to Queen's Park today, expecting also hundreds, if not thousands, of similar-minded people from other cities, constituencies, parts of the province, all to converge on Queen's Park today. I hope the powers that be, including Doug Ford himself, take a notice. Here's Grant. Grant, go ahead. You're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Yeah. So you said you were buddies with your boss?
Well, I mean, I was buddies with my producer. I got along well with every boss I've had. I don't know that we were buddies.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when I was working at Freeport, we had this CEO, and he was kind of a unique individual because I've never been that close with anybody like him. We would like golfing, so he took me out to a very expensive place, and yeah, so I was kind of neat, and he never looked at himself as being the big boss, or like
right. I get you.
Yeah, you say, Mr. Egan, no, just call me Dennis. Oh, okay. Yeah, and then
right.
Yeah, so yeah, it was kind of neat because, like I said, I've never had anybody like that before, and all the other yahoos, they seem to think because the CEO, you're nobody, and yeah, sure. And then when I was going to the gym too, I would have some fellas call me Stubby, yeah, because I'm short, and they would say, "I bet you would be good as one of those horse racers." I can't remember what they call those.
Oh yeah. I don't know either, but I know what you mean. Hey, Grant, thanks for the call, man. I got to go just for time. Sorry, man. Thank you. I mean, there's friends with your boss, but then your immediate boss, but not necessarily their boss or their boss. You know, the friendship level changes. I think the higher up you go. 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. More of your calls in a moment. 570 News Radio. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. What would you like to talk about? It's the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. Grant was just talking moments ago about being friends with your boss or having a friendly relationship with a boss. We were talking about that before. It's interesting, you know. I think the easier friendship is your immediate supervisor, but then the supervisor's friends with the director, and the director is friends with the manager, and the manager's friends with the vice president. But the supervisor isn't necessarily friends with the vice president. There's a hierarchy and a pecking order, you know. And if the big boss, I'm always suspicious of the big boss who wants to be a friend to the employees. It's a fine line because, and I've worked for a couple of great ones who managed to walk that line where they're the big boss, but they're approachable. You're not going to be best pals with them, but they're approachable enough to be kind of friendly, shall we say? Because you don't want to be their friend. They're the big boss. They can, you're their friend, but in a split second, they can give you a raise, fire you, give you an office in the basement next to the furnace. They have the control, and some of them say they're your friend, but they will let you know that they're also the big boss in a split second. So it's a strange corporate relationship if you work in a corporate environment or office sometime, isn't it? It's a whole thing. That's why shows like The Office or the famous movie Office Space is so fun to watch, because they kind of lampoon all of that kind of stuff. And your boss could have been somebody you were once working with, and then he becomes your boss. She becomes your boss. That's kind of always a little awkward. Because here's the thing too about leaders in business. A lot of leaders become leaders because they were good followers, right? Once you get into some of the higher ups, they're looking for people with leadership ability, or they're looking for new hires. They look for leaders, leadership ability, leadership skills, all that, management, team management skills. They look for that, but just generally, if you've been a good follower, if you've been a good soldier, if you've been loyal, and I don't want to say a brown noser necessarily or a sycophant, maybe that's a little overboard, but if you are a good follower, we're going to promote you. We're going to give you a raise or a better title. And usually what happens is you either get a good raise, or instead you get a title with a little raise, but now you got a title. So you end up with leaders who didn't necessarily show any leadership skills. They were just good followers. Good followers don't always make good leaders. And so you have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, is it morons? Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. You have, in a lot of cases, you end up with morons that you're working for, and you're like, how did you become the director or the supervisor? Oh, that's right, you were a good follower. Well, see if you can follow this. Hey, but I say that now, kind of being out of the corporate structure world, and as soon as you have a job for a corporation, you're in the corporate structure world. Doesn't matter what you do, whether you work in an office or you sweep the floors, you're in the corporate structure. You're part of it. Good luck. It's very interesting. But what else would you like to move on to? $1.74 a liter. Huh? Is that something? I was saying earlier on the show, $1.74 a liter, and we're thrilled because it was $1.84 yesterday. It's $1.84. So we're waiting. We didn't get gas yesterday. Got to get gas today because it's going to be 10 cents cheaper. This is what it's come to. I see, because I don't have a car anymore. My big experience always in the grocery store. Sometimes I'll buy something because it's on sale, and I'm like, this stuff used to be $3.99, and I'm buying it because it's on sale for $6.99. What have they done to me? They've now just particular, and I used to do this. I still do it occasionally. I used to figure out, if I'm cooking at home, which I love to do, and I mostly do, how much is a meal costing me? So I bought these 4-pack of chicken breasts for X. So one chicken breast is now worth Y. And let's say it's the pack was $8, so now this chicken breast is worth $2. And the potato, I bought a bag of potatoes, so this potato is worth 40 cents. And then some vegetables. And I used to kind of work that out in my head. And I could say, generally, you could feed yourself well for around $3.50 a meal as a single person. And that's just impossible. It's doubled. It's doubled if you want to look at it that way. It's absolutely doubled. And it's true. I've had this experience where like the bacon. I'm not a big bacon eater, but once in a while I like to treat myself and get some bacon and have it here and there. And because you love the bacon. You could eat it all the time, but you can't. So $6.99. $6.99 on special. And I'm like, no, that's not a special. $2.99 is a special. And it's also the smaller pack. It's also, bacon is one of those things that's been shrinkflation, right? Used to be 500 milligram pack for $3. Now it's a 350 pack for $7. So I can't exactly blame the store, the pork producers, or because it's a long line, it all comes back to fuel costs, as we know that. Once fuel is up, then everything's going to, because nothing is made or manufactured or grown where we consume it. In rare cases, it has to come from somewhere, and it has to come by something, and that something uses fuel. And fuel costs more, and you can only absorb that as a producer or a farmer or a trucker or a factory, a processor. You can only absorb that cost so long before you go, I got to charge you more for the can of tomatoes. Sorry. But it's just insane. It's just insane. And so beef is a big thing for me. The one thing I'm going to deep dive one of these days, and maybe paper products. Is it fuel, like paper products? How did they go up over 100%? It's nice to hear numbers, inflation down to 8%. Food inflation, though, always a little higher. And by food inflation, I mean general grocery store inflation. And the grocery stores always go, our margins are very thin. Yeah, so are your cheese slices. So, but it's so ridiculous. You look at these inflation numbers and you go, okay, well, maybe I got a chance because inflation came down a percentage point or this. Look at paper products. It's up 100%. It's up 150%. And it's maddening because you used to get an 8-roll pack of toilet tissue for $3.99. And I never used to buy it at $3.99. That's ridiculous. I used to wait till it was on sale for $2.99 and then buy myself a couple of packs. It's $6.99 at least. I saw a sign that one day was $10.99, and then there was a sign the next day said $6.99, save $4. And I'm like, save $4? Man, that was maddening. It was go to the manager maddening, Rudy, go ahead. You're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Yeah, good day. You're talking about the live animal, the prices in that have partially skyrocketed, not just because of the fuel. The fuel's part, but the fuel was cheap when it was already going up. The feed prices have gone skyrocketed. Now with cattle, with the corn, and I've worked in the beef industry for over 40 years, and the corn, a lot of the corn, they started using it for ethanol, and they got more money for the ethanol, so they jacked up the price of the corn. A lot of cattle are fed with corn, so are pigs and many other animals. So, the feed has gone up in time in price. So that's hit it hard too, eh?
Right. That's a great point. Yes, it has, very much so.
I just wanted to get that point in. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I didn't know if you had another point or not. I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you for the call. Now too, through the Strait of Hormuz, fertilizer comes from that part of the world on tankers, and so the other part is fertilizer, and that just helps everything grow all around the world. Everybody needs fertilizer. Look up the story someday of the chemist back in I want to say 1918 who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry that year, who basically invented fertilizer in simple terms and short terms. It's a great story. Because he went on to be a big Nazi who worked for Hitler and invented poison gas. So same guy saved the world by inventing fertilizer, because basically the way it works is you grow stuff on land and you grow it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It depends on the crop and on the land. And then you can't grow something on the land there because there's no nitrogen. It's all, and you have to let the land go. I know as a grandson of farmers, and my uncles were farmers. They would rotate, their acres of land out on the prairies where we're not growing a crop on this land this year. It needs a year to recover. So nitrogen only comes from a few sources, and usually not enough of it to rely on. So nitrogen came from guano, which is bird dew. So they used to literally mine that in southern Pacific and other areas where there was big populations of birds who would live on these rocks and mountains. They used to be able to actually mine the hardened bird dew because it contained nitrogen. And a chemist figured out a sort of biosynthetic version of that and saved the world, because you could grow crops over and over again with this. So big divergence there, big tangent, big off-ramp, sorry. But that's the other thing now, is when you hear, because it is based largely on fuel, because you have to get product to market. And sometimes in case of farming, you need fuel to actually raise, work on your farm, whether it's grow crops or raise animals. You need the fuel, and then you got to get but you're absolutely right about feed. And that whole ethanol thing was just what a scam that was. Ethanol, yeah, that's the savior of the earth, except you didn't think it through. You didn't realize now that all these people trying to grow corn to feed the people of the world, and it has to be beautiful corn, because if an ear of corn doesn't look right, it's not in the store. You could just grow any corn because it was good for ethanol and you got more money for it. But now where was all the feed corn coming from, not only for peoples, but for animals? Oh, we didn't think it through. Oh, my goodness. You're right. Didn't think it through. And now, so there's that. There's the fertilizer that's being blocked. There's the fuel. And here we are, just paying more for everything. And it comes down to one or two people in this world right now who could make a change and make things better, and they're not. Which is so it's hard not to think of that when you even pick up that piece of Canadian beef and go, well, what does this have to do with the Strait of Hormuz? Well, it kind of does. It kind of does. This is 570 News Radio. We're also on Rogers TV. Larry Fedoruk in for Mike Farwell. Back with more in a moment.
The Mike Farwell Show, 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, continues in a moment on 570 News Radio.
The stress on a hockey fan when your team is right there, right to the end. Oh, my goodness. Not complaining. It's stressful, huh? A little bit, don't you think? A hockey fan this long and to get this close, and you go, well, then we just got to go all the way. We got to bring the cup home. That's it. That's it. As I mentioned the other day, so much has to go right to go this far. Everybody's a great coach. Everybody's got great players. Everybody's got skills and strategies, and otherwise they wouldn't belong in the league. And so much has to go right for you to have that edge and win. So, and a great point too. We had Mike Farwell on earlier on this morning as a guest live from Kelowna on his own show to kind of get us up to speed. And he pointed it out about this rest period, because, as we know, Rangers go 3-0 and automatically qualify for the final game on Sunday, and then they have these 4 days, almost 5, to rest up. And is that good or bad? Because the semifinal game is tomorrow, and it's Everett and Chicoutimi, and the winner there will play on Sunday. So is it better for them to have played on Friday and play Sunday game than the team that had almost 5 full days of rest? I think the rest is better. But anyway, Mike Farwell pointed out very rightly so that they pretty much swept every series this year and always had the rest period between series because they finished early. So that bodes well, don't you think? I think that bodes well for the team on Sunday. But very stressful watching the games because you're excited, and even it's not a blowout, but the first 2 games were big statements, and Chicoutimi game was a little closer right to the end and still worrying and stressful. And I'll be honest, if it's a little late and I don't quite make it to the end of the game, that stress of going online and pulling up the score, what's it going to be? The later that night or the next morning, and to always have a positive result is really good. So. The stress on a hockey fan, on a sports fan. And Mike also broke the news a little bit. I'll just repeat this part in case you're wondering, that the game on Sunday is scheduled for 7 o'clock our time, 7 p.m. our time, 4 p.m. them time, unless there's another game in that Carolina series in the NHL. And if there is, there's a chance that the Memorial Cup game, the final game, will be moved to 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. our time. So we're not sure at this point what it's going to be. If you're trying to plan your Sunday around, I'm going to be watching the Rangers or listening to the Rangers for the Memorial Cup final, could be 7 p.m., could be 9 p.m. We're not sure. Also interesting, because I knew, because we had Dan Liebold, the trainer and equipment manager, on yesterday, and he talked about flying out of the city 3 hours after the game. And his first thought is the equipment manager, it's like, celebrate for him, like for 2 seconds, because he's got to start packing up and making sure everything's on the plane going home, right? So Dan will celebrate a little bit later probably. But the Mike Farwell telling us that, every team's got to get out of town, because if they stay in town and there's too much partying on the street by either the team and or their fans, in the past that's led to difficulty. Ergo, they made a rule in the Memorial Cup that as soon as you're done, you go home. Now it's Kelowna, so Everett from Washington traveled by bus. So if they lose tomorrow night, they must get on a bus and go home. And if Chicoutimi loses, they have to get on a plane and go home. I never knew that about the Memorial Cup. I think that's fascinating, because we don't want those hockey fans on the street causing havoc. And not that they have to go home, but it's, I guess, because when they had the issue, and I'm going to have to look this up because Mike didn't give us the town or the year, but the issue they had years ago was with the team themselves, and the team going out to the bars and on the streets, which of course would help instigate the fans. And this was a losing team, and they stayed and had one big last party, and I guess it wreaked havoc on the downtown. And they said, no more. You lose, you go home. And in the final game, when there's a winner and a loser, you both go home. Just go home immediately. We're done. Nothing else to see here. Go home, right? So whatever happens, that 9 o'clock or midnight or whenever the game might end, depending on when it starts, our Kitchener Rangers and the coaching staff and everybody else and Mike Farwell gets on a plane and flies across country in the middle of the night, going into Monday, which by the way is why I'll also be here Monday for Mike Farwell as well, because of that late night flight and getting them out of town. So interesting stuff. So tomorrow night it's Everett and Chicoutimi. If you're watching Memorial Cup games just because you love the whole idea, and one of them will play the Rangers on Sunday. And I'm talking like it's the weekend, but we still have Friday to go. And TGIF, I will be in for Mike Farwell tomorrow, our Friday 4 panel, open phones once again, and much more. I'll talk to you tomorrow here on 570 News Radio.